Sadie just pulled up and she can't find a place to park.
No, you. I don't think we've ever used a gavel before, but that was fun. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of February 11th to order. Roll call, please.
Ms. Shaw? Mr. Romero?
Here.
Dr. Ravi?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Here. Let the record reflect that Ms. Shaw is in the parking lot trying to find a parking space, so she should be here shortly. Next is our land acknowledgement. First, I would like to say happy February, happy Black History Month, so thank you all for being here. Next is our land acknowledgement statement, and that will be given by Miguel Jimenez. Miguel, I'm going to read a little bit about you, and then I'll have our interpreter read after I do. Miguel is a sixth grader at Steele Elementary School. He is an exemplary sixth grade student at Steele. Having been at Steele since kindergarten, he is a leader in the classroom. He models respect towards his peers and adults and has first-rate study skills. He's progressing swimmingly on the trumpet and is fluent in English and Spanish and is probably the most honest student you will ever meet. Outside the classroom, Miguel is the president of the student council. He enjoys listening to music, playing video games, and chilling. The team at Steele is very proud of Miguel. And if we can have the interpreter, go ahead. Miguel, I'm going to let the interpreter read your bio in Spanish first. Sorry. That's okay.
Miguel Jiménez es un estudiante ejemplar de sexto grado en Steele. Ha estado con Steele desde el jardín de niños y es un líder en el salón. Modela el respeto hacia sus compañeros y adultos. Tiene habilidades de estudios de primera, está progresando muy bien con la trompeta, habla inglés y español con fluidez y es probablemente el estudiante más honesto que jamás conocerá. Fuera del salón, Miguel es el presidente de nuestro consejo estudiantil. Disfruta escuchando música, jugando videojuegos y relajándose. El equipo de Steele está muy orgulloso de Miguel.
Thank you. Miguel will read our land acknowledgement and then followed by the pledge. Go ahead, Miguel.
On behalf of the governing board of the Tucson Unified School District, I, Miguel Jimenez, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and faculties of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the federally recognized tribal land of the Pasquo-Jackie tribe.
Thank you. Ready for the pledge? If we could all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I hope you have a great rest of the sixth grade. Thank you. Ms. Shaw is here now. I'm glad you were able to find a parking space.
Thank you. I kind of illegally parked, but hopefully it's okay. I was at my daughter's soccer game, everyone. My apologies for being late.
Next is agenda adjustments. Dr. Trujillo?
Yes, President Ekstrom, members of the governing board. We do have a few agenda adjustments for me to recommend. There's a few I'd like to make before the call to the audience, and there's a few that I'd like to make after the call to the audience. And then, of course, I've got an item that we're wishing to pull. So item 6.6, I'd like to request that we move the CTE proclamation to before the call to the audience so that we can get our teacher home in time for dinner and all that good stuff, ready for tomorrow. 6.1, 6.5, we've got a lot of appointments tonight here with families. Certainly don't want to have them here deep into the night. And then after the calls to the audience, I'd like to move up item 7.2 for benefits, and then items 8.2, the update from Higher Ground. And tonight I'd like to pull item 8.3 for ex-ed service enhancement and move it to February 25th, our next board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next is the superintendent's report.
Yes, President Ekstrom, board members, viewing public, those of you with us here in attendance at Duffy, welcome to February, and we hope everybody takes some time to celebrate Black History Month in TUSD. Our African American Student Services Department has a whole host of programming going on throughout the month. Check them out on their website and their socials for more information. It's also Love of Reading Month, and we hope that all of you out there will join us in getting out to schools as much as you can, reading to kids and celebrating the love of reading. We start tonight with a heavy heart. We recognize the passing of a TUSD family member. We remember and honor the life of Randy Sizemore. Although Randy had only been a monitor at Dodge Middle School for a semester, his impact on both staff and students was truly profound. His kindness and dedication to creating a safe, supportive environment were deeply felt by all who knew him. It was clear that Randy's small acts of kindness made a significant difference, and many students shared throughout the day that they felt like his favorite. Mr. Sizemore had also previously worked at Borman, where Principal Brian Huss said the following: Randy was an exceptional person who built positive relationships with everybody that he met and always went above and beyond to help others. He will be greatly missed by all of us. The family would like it known that memorial service for Randy will be held on February 21st at 2 p.m. at the East Lawn Palms Mortuary. Of course, our thoughts, best wishes, and of course prayers are with Randy's family, friends, and the entirety of the Dodge community. So please join me in a moment of silence for the passing of Mr. Randy Sizemore. Thank you. And as we talk about the contributions of service for individuals like Mr. Sizemore, we turn our eyes to an organization that dedicates itself on a full-time basis, 365 days a year, to the service and the support of the students of the Tucson Unified School District. I'm talking about the Education Enrichment Foundation. EEF, since 1982, has been going above and beyond with their support of the Tucson Unified School District. Their signature events and the events that all of our kids look forward to, the shoe shopping parties, where they take students from up to 3 schools simultaneously to ensure that every child gets a new pair of shoes. This ongoing commitment reflects EEF's passion for supporting our students and making sure that they have the resources that they need to succeed. I'm also grateful to our employees from Employee Relations, Student Placement and Enrollment, our Customer Service Center, and our very own Yolanda and Vanessa in the board office, who went out to our last EEF shoe shopping event and helped with the chaperoning of students. So thank them for their support there. The collaboration ensured a smooth, safe, and enjoyable experience for our students. We're proud to have such a dedicated partner in EEF. I want to take this time to thank them for everything that they do for the students, the families of the Tucson Unified School District. A few weeks ago, I had a wonderful time out at the Step Up Schools Expo, which took place on January 23rd at the Tucson Convention Center. The event was a tremendous success, bringing together families, educators, and community members to learn more about the many opportunities within our district. At the expo, families had the chance to meet with principals, schedule school tours, explore TUSD's academic programs, and learn about the wide range of extracurricular activities and CTE options available to students. I especially want to thank the CTE digital photo and digital arts programs at Tucson High for their amazingly interactive photo booth that was very, very popular with the students and families that night, and the demonstration teams from Saguaro that were out there with the VEX robotics kits. I saw a lot of students very, very excited about those programs. I also want to thank everybody who helped make the event possible, and a special recognition to our administrative assistants in our regional office and our communications department for making this expo absolutely wonderful. It has been a very busy last couple of weeks for me. I've had the opportunity to visit several schools, starting with Davis, where I was surprised by a serenade by the Aguilitas de Davis, their famous mariachi program. It's always a treat to receive an impromptu performance, as I was surprisingly led into the library where the students were ready to go. I want to thank Principal Maricela Campillo for putting together an absolutely wonderful event and visit that day. I also visited Tolson. I want to thank Principal Ryan Wilson for his hospitality and for hosting us. We had an opportunity to talk bond projects out there at Tolson and how excited his team is to be benefiting from our bond campaign. I want to thank Principal Bobby Estrella for the wonderful visit we had out to Saguaro. Had an opportunity to see their award-winning CTE programs. We visited some of the art classes, and we visited with their new performance arts teacher and had good opportunity to talk to him about his transition into TUSD and to wish him well on his spring production coming up. And I want to thank Megan Chavez for a wonderful visit out there at Grijalva Elementary. I think the highlight to me there, it's a wonderful learning community. There's always amazing students and families. But I had an opportunity to visit the cafeteria staff. The cafeteria food services team, it's a team of two. And between these two wonderful ladies, they have 50 years of service to TUSD, and both of them are riding off into the sunset in retirement at the end of this year. So we had a wonderful opportunity to take some pictures with them and celebrate their achievements. And it was the first time, I know, better late than never, that they actually got to see the superintendent. And so they were able to kind of name all the superintendents that have been here through the years. So it was a wonderful point of pride during that visit to wish those two well in their retirement. I also want to thank Principal Chandra Thomas for inviting me out to Robin's Avid Night. I had an opportunity to address students in a presentation about my journey to the superintendency and what it actually means to be a superintendent. We had some wonderful questions from our students in terms of what the job is, and a lot of questions about the job of a school board. So I also had an opportunity to talk to our young folks about what school members do as well. So absolutely wonderful set of visits. Just last week, I had the opportunity to serve as the moderator for the UHS student debate. The senior debate, the mock election that happens every single year at UHS, it is the signature event for the school. It is an iconic event that has been held at the school for 40 years. And it's where the senior class, they divide themselves up into political parties. They create foreign policy platforms and domestic policy platforms, and they debate each other's platforms on stage. And it's the juniors that get to vote school-wide the next day about who the winners are and who they would like to see govern UHS. I was so impressed with these incredible young people. I saw them take the stage and talk about some of the most politically sensitive and explosive issues of our times, whether it's healthcare, gun control, immigration, Russia, Ukraine. They did so with respect and professionalism and honoring each other's voices. And I think we need a little bit more of that, not just with young people, but also from a lot of times the adults. And I thought that they did a fantastic job modeling what dialogue and debate is supposed to be in our community. So thanks to you to Beto Rangel for inviting me to serve as the moderator. And lastly, at the end of January, I had a great opportunity to attend and make some remarks at a celebration dinner, marking the culmination of another year of the Tucson, Korea ambassador visit. Along with myself, there were other members of the district leadership team, principals from our host schools, and the South Korean officials gathered to reflect on the experiences and connections made through their almost 3-week visit to Tucson. This collaborative effort involved not just the school community, but also families who opened up their homes to the students, allowing them to experience life with an American family. In addition to the school-based activities, tours of local sites and cultural venues were arranged, showcasing the best of Tucson. And this summer, students from Tucson will have the opportunity to visit South Korea and continue sharing cultural experiences with the students there. So I want to thank you to all of those who contributed to this exchange, and a special acknowledgement to Yoon Lee for her efforts in ensuring TCAP success. Yoon is our program coordinator inside of Asian American Pacific and Refugee Student Services. This is a point of pride for her, and it is a labor of love for her. June is also a parent, and all of her daughters came through TUSD, and she is passionate about what our schools can teach our Korean counterparts. Friday, February 7th, I had an opportunity to address our school counselors at Hauenstein Learning Center as part of National School Counseling Week. It was a privilege to speak to these dedicated professionals who do so much to support the social, emotional, and academic well-being of our students. My message to them was simple. In these times of turbulence and these times of rapid change, if there was ever a time where we needed our counselors to be there for our young people in our communities, it is now. And that the work for them has never been more urgent and never been more appreciated than it is now as they work with our students and families during this rapid time of change. Had an opportunity to extend a thank you to Julie Shivananda and our Director for Social Emotional Learning Department, as well as our Guidance Counseling Coordinator duo, Vanessa Aguayo and Rebecca Carrier. Their efforts ensure that our students and our staff receive the guidance and care they need to succeed. And I'm grateful for everything they do to make our district such a positive and such an inclusive place and a supportive place for students. So join me in wishing all of our counselors a happy School Counseling Week. And it is my honor tonight to highlight several of our exceptional educators as part of the statewide celebration coordinated by the Arizona K-12 Center. We are thrilled to congratulate Katherine Jackson and Candace Dorr for earning their National Board certification, and to acknowledge Catherine Harris, Hershenroder, Mary Haney, Madhavi Rajkananda, Michael Kennedy, and Nina Hips for the successful renewal of their certification. National Board certification is a rigorous and voluntary process that reflects the highest standards of teaching excellence. It involves a comprehensive assessment of pedagogical knowledge and a portfolio that demonstrates a teacher's ability to differentiate instruction, create effective and engaging learning environments, and to reflect on their practice. Currently, the Tucson Unified School District is proud to have 55 nationally board certified educators, and 25 more are in the process of achieving this distinguished certification. On behalf of the district, I want to express our deep appreciation for the commitment to these teachers. These teachers have demonstrated to professional growth and their dedication to our students' success. Thank you for your incredible work and positive impact that you make every single day. And lastly, tonight I will go ahead and close the superintendent's report by recognizing the outstanding achievements of our magnet schools and their dedicated principals and magnet coordinators who are present here tonight. Tucson Unified proudly operates 12 magnet schools offering theme-based learning experiences to nearly 7,000 students. Over the past 2 years, we've seen tremendous growth and success within our magnet schools, with double the number of magnet schools of American certified schools, and nearly double the amount of schools receiving Magnet Schools of America National Merit Award. I want to thank each principal and magnet coordinator for their leadership and dedication to providing students with innovative and enriching educational experiences. At this moment, I'd like to invite our Senior Director for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, who oversees our magnet programs and provides them the day-to-day operational support, to to present our wonderful school communities with these awards. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Cameron Taravati.
Good evening, everyone. Board President, Board. I'd like to first welcome a Top Merit Award of Excellence winners at Magnet School of America Certified Demonstration Schools, Drachman Montessori K-8. Followed by Borton Elementary Magnet School. Next, I'd like to acknowledge the Merit Award of Excellence winner and Magnet Schools of America Certified Demonstration School, Mansfield STEM Plus Magnet School. A Merit Award of Distinction and a Magnet Schools of America Certified Demonstration School, Carrillo K5 Communication and Creative Arts Magnet. Next, another Merit Award of Distinction in Magnet Schools of America Certified Demonstration School, Holiday Fine Arts Magnet. We also have a Magnet Schools of America National Certified School. We have 3 folks in the audience: Tucson High Magnet School, Davis Bilingual Elementary Magnet School, and Bonillas Traditional Elementary Magnet School. And finally, we have 2 Merit Award of Distinctions, their first time this year. We're super proud of them. Dodge Traditional Magnet Middle School. And Rossridge Bilingual K-8 Magnet. And that is it. Thank you so much. Would you like a picture, sir?
Here in the middle for a picture, I'll ask our communications team. I believe Kevin is here somewhere for a pic. There he is on cue. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. We'll move on to item 6.6, proclamation of February 2025 as Career and Technical Education CTE Month in Tucson Unified School District.
President Extra, members of the governing board member, February is Career and Technical Education Month. Here in TUSD, we would like this proclamation made official. And here to do us the honors, if you would do us the pleasure of introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about your program.
All right. My name is Dr. Maria Bicknell, and I'm a teacher at Pueblo High School. I've been there. This is my 43rd year at Pueblo by choice. I've done CTE forever. I'm wearing my late sister's DECA jacket, by the way, so want to honor her. Here's the proclamation. Whereas February 1 through the 28th, 2025 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness, and whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement. I think her mic went out. And whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap in connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring America is a strong and competitive economy. Therefore, the governing board of the Tucson Unified District does hereby proclaim February 2025 as Career and Technical Education Month.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move this item.
I'll second.
Motion by myself, second by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, congratulations. CTE Month. Next, we'll move on to item 6.1, administrative appointments for principal at Magnet Middle School.
Wait a minute, Jen.
Governing board members, always a joy to welcome new administrators for board consideration. And tonight's recommendation, she has been serving in the Tucson Unified School District since 2016. Comes to us from Sunnyside with a little bit of a short stint in Hawaii, where she taught English language arts. But she has experience both at Valencia Middle School and at Pueblo High School as an MTSS coordinator, and then more exclusively at Pueblo High School as a dean of students, and where she now serves as the assistant principal, where she has been serving since 2021. In addition, there was a stint at UHS as the interim assistant principal there for about a year or so. So tonight's recommendation, I feel, is uniquely prepared to address the challenges of Mansfeld Middle School, understanding the challenges that students are going to face as they transition into high school. Her approach to working with families, staff, and supporting communities has always been very impressive. And though she'll be leaving Pueblo, I noticed she found her way back there maybe at some point you'll be back at Pueblo, as they say, once a warrior, always a warrior. But for tonight, it's all about Mansfeld. And our recommendation for the principal of Mansfeld Middle School is Mrs. Carla Martinez.
I'll go ahead and move to approve Ms. Carla Martinez as principal of Mansfeld Middle Magnet School.
Second.
There's a motion by myself, seconded by Ms. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Congratulations. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, President Ekstrom, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, and Councilor Ross. It's a great honor to be here this evening. I want to begin by thanking the Mansfeld community for placing their trust in me to be their next leader. I am fully committed to continue the longstanding tradition of excellence at Mansfeld, and I look forward to meeting the community and to serving the Bulldog Nation. I'd also like to thank Mr. R. Rossenhausler and the Pueblo community for 6 wonderful and really impactful years. All the wonderful memories, they're always going to hold a special place in my heart. I'd also like to thank my family, my husband Damien, who's here with me, and my children who are watching at home, and my sister from California. I told her I'd give her a shout out. I want to thank them for all of their love and support and for their belief in me. They knew that I would be here this evening, so I want to thank them. I'd also like to thank my village of friends, colleagues, and mentors for really being with me every step of my career, and I'm really grateful for all of them. And in closing, I just want to say thank you, Mansfeld community. I look forward to the upcoming year, and go Bulldogs. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla, if you'd like to shake hands through the line there, they'll be waiting for you. Next is administrative appointments for principal at Valencia Middle School.
Yes, Governing Board President Extra, members of the Governing Board. Before we proceed with tonight's recommendation, I do see in attendance we have the outgoing principal, Mrs. Stacy Gist. I do want to take this opportunity to publicly thank her for all the wonderful years of service she has rendered to that community. She has worked tirelessly to improve student achievement at the school and to try to make it a better place for all students. She's here tonight in support of tonight's recommendation. Tonight's recommendation is, in my opinion, one of the foremost passionate math educators that we have in the district, particularly for middle school and secondary students. He has a love of math education that translated into the classroom and was noted by the effectiveness that he always demonstrated as a middle school math teacher, first at Pister, and then over at Morgan Maxwell, and then for a time over at Bricta before it closed. Since that time, he's dedicated his efforts to serving as a professional development academic trainer inside of the curriculum and instruction department for both math education and online curricular resources. But for the last few years, he's been serving as the assistant principal at Valencia, and he is uniquely tuned in to the needs of the community, uniquely tuned in to where that school is headed on its journey to excellence. And more importantly, he's so tuned in because he is of that community. And we're very, very proud to recommend Mr. Omar Sotelo to serve as the principal at Valencia Middle School.
I would like to move the item.
I'll second.
The item has been moved by Ms. Luna Rose and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you. To Dr. Trujillo, board president, board members, the Valencia community, I graciously thank you for this privilege to be the principal of Valencia Middle School. To my wife, my children, my family, Mrs. Gist, Mr. Padilla, and all the staff of Valencia Middle School, and all members of TUSD for the last 23 years that I've collaborated with, this hire is your hire because you have shaped me into the leader I am today. To the current and future students of Valencia Middle School, I say this to you. You will know 3 truths before you promote. That you were seen, you were heard, and that you do know the Pythagorean theorem. Thank you all. Have a great night, and go Jags.
Thank you. Next is the administrative appointment for interim principal at Johnson Primary School.
President Ekstrom, all of our schools are amazing places, but man, Johnson K3 is one of the most special places in the district. Beautiful learning community nestled in a beautiful part of the district. And since 2017, tonight's recommendation for interim has called that place home as its incumbent principal, Miss Rose Cota. She has done some wonderful things over the last 8 years now in terms of leading the school to its current K3 status. Johnson used to be K2. Unprecedented growth in literacy and numeracy, and amazing relationships out there in the community with parents. We enter into interview and selection for open positions with an open mind and even understanding that it's going to be hard to fill the shoes of an administrator like Rose that's retiring, but then sometimes the shoes just can't be filled at that particular time. And that was the case this year, as we just didn't see applicants that, though well qualified and energetic and talented in their own right, not necessarily a fit there for the Johnson leadership assignment. So as we continue that search, we've asked Rose Cota to serve as the interim principal for Johnson for the 25-26 school year. Rose is our recommendation.
I would like to move the item.
Second.
The item has been moved by Ms. Luna Rose and seconded by Ms. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, congratulations.
Thank you. Good evening, President Ekstrom, board members, Dr. Trujillo, council. It has been an incredible 8 years at Johnson Primary. We've had the most beautiful, we do have the most beautiful community there. We have amazing educators, the teachers and the staff. We also have our rainbow makers who have my heart, and it's hard to say goodbye. So that's why I wanted to take this honor and say yes to another beautiful year of continuous hard work with our Johnson community. I'm honored, very, very, truly honored to continue our work, and I thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Next is administrative appointments, interim assistant principal at Saguaro High School.
Yes, members of the governing board, we have an interim assistant principal recommendation for Saguaro High School. Interim assignments, if you're watching in the community, they're designed to cover a vacancy, usually for a set period of time. In this case, for the remainder of the school year. So we tonight bring forward a candidate who is well familiar with the community at Saguaro High School, where she currently serves as the site's AVID coordinator, and she's been a physical education teacher since 2016. She also serves as the girls basketball coach for junior varsity and freshmen, and that's where she's at tonight, leading them in their final game of the season. But tonight we would like to recommend Coach Danielle Kinter to serve as the interim assistant principal for Saguaro High School.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Moved by myself, seconded by Ms. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations.
Ms. Ekstrom,
Yes.
she left me a note if I could read
Okay.
on her behalf. I'm sorry I could not be at this meeting in person as I am coaching my last girls basketball game tonight. I would like to thank the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board for approving my recommendation to fill the interim assistant principal position at Saguaro High School. I look forward to continuing my work at Saguaro in this new role. I am very thankful that I have the opportunity to begin my administration career at the same place I have taught for the past 9 years and with the students and staff I truly love. I am eager to get started and help make positive changes moving forward for the Saguaro community. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next is item 6.5, administrative appointments, interim assistant principal, CE Rose K-8 school.
Yes, governing board members, members of the public, tonight's recommendation for interim assistant principal has been in the district since 2011, where she served as a student success specialist assigned to Ross Scrooge K-8, and then later as an MTSS coordinator, where she currently serves now for the Ross Fruch community. She is seeking her first foray into site administration, and so tonight, Chantel Rawls is our recommendation to fill the interim assistant principal position at CE Rose K-8.
I'd like to move the item.
I'll second.
The item has been moved by Ms. Luna Rose and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you, board members, President Dr. Trujillo, Council. I also want to take this time to thank Assistant Superintendent Mark Alvarez, Frank Carmenta, and my principal, who has been an amazing mentor, Alma Carmona Alday, who couldn't be here. I love the CE Rose community, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to invite all of our new appointments, our new administrative appointments, join us up for a picture.
Next.
What's that? Yeah. Okay.
You should do it in Spanish.
No. I'd just like to let everyone know that we do have interpretation services available. Next is our call to the audience. I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom. Public participation at board meetings. Members of the public may speak during the call to the audience. The governing board clerk shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office or complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed a request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once, and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff, and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and/or speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers shall also refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks. And because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware that there may be children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if any board member wishes to respond to criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. No more than 2 board members may address each topic. Contents of this card are public information. Okay. And we have 15 in-person speakers and 2 to be read, and we'll starting with Valentina Burris Butner, followed by Frida Thompson Avelino and Judy Morian. for Valentina Burris Butner.
Hello, my name is Valentina Burst-Butner. I am in second grade at Davis Bilingual Magnet School. I am here to talk about reducing the amount of tests in the school district. I think tests should be reduced because it makes kids feel bad about how the test rates them. I felt bad about myself when I thought I scored low. Testing makes kids feel competitive with each another instead of helpful to one another. Some of the questions on the tests the students haven't learned yet. I'd rather be learning to solve the questions in class instead of guessing on the test. Extra testing gives teachers more work to do and makes them stricter with their students. My teacher gave us homework for the test in English instead of our regular homework in Spanish. Over-testing puts more pressure on parents to get their kids ready and score high. I think testing should be reduced to a lower amount so kids can enjoy school more. Thank you.
Next, we have Flida Thompson Avelino.
Solo quiero decir que no me gustan las pruebas en la computadora. Cuando hago el diagnostic test, soy última. Si cabías eso, voy a ser muy feliz. Gracias.
Thank you, Flida. Next, we have Judy Morarion, followed by Becca Grasick.
Well, it's hard to follow those beautiful young voices. Superintendent Trujillo, Board President Ekstrom, and members of the board, my name is Judy Marillion. Like many in the TUSD community, I am concerned about accelerating the level of literacy learning and achievement of TUSD students. My comments tonight address the Budget Committee's recommendations. As a former TUSD librarian and literacy coach and retired librarian educator, I know and research shows that the literacy work of school librarians makes a difference in students' learning outcomes. I have two concerns. The first seems easily remedied. At present, the book fines that students accrue while attending TUSD schools follow them from grade to grade throughout their schooling, right up until their graduation. Being hounded for unpaid fines for lost books does not help any TUSD student or their family grow to love of reading, or TUSD for that matter. In the olden days when I served in this district, students whose families were unable to pay for a lost book worked off their debts by providing service in their library or school community. Student fines should not be used to fill in for the fact that TUSD does not have a dedicated budget item to fund books and materials for school libraries. This practice should stop immediately. The second, more challenging item is the current inequitable access to professional school librarians in TUSD schools. This should have been among the Budget Advisory Committee's recommendations. In this call, I have included a link to a recently published study that shows how and why school districts across the country have rehired certified school librarians. Professional librarians are educators who interact directly with students and classroom teachers to provide literacy and learning services. I hope that you will make time to read this report. For the sake of our students, restoring professional school librarian positions can and should be done in TUSD. February is TUSD's Love of Reading Month. Developing a plan to provide equity in library services would be an appropriate and impactful way to celebrate. Thank you.
Next, we have Becky Grasick, followed by Jay Harden.
Hi, my name is Becky Grasick. I'm a math teacher at Catalina High School. And I'm also a parent of a first grader and a fourth grader at Davis and Hollinger. And I'm here to talk about putting an end to excessive testing in TUSD. In particular, I want to discuss excessive testing as it relates to my own kids and to the idea of the cusp student. At Catalina, we've been bellyaching for years about how the excessive number of tests our students have to take is hurting their education. It hurts because students have less time to participate in the deep and meaningful learning that we want our students to experience in our school. And it hurts because the pressures that the school and teachers feel about those tests narrow the focus of what our school does. So we grumbled and we got frustrated, and then my son hit third grade. He's not in fifth yet. And it was not until that moment when my own child began to experience what those pressures are doing to school that I said, we should do something about this. I couldn't stand the thought of watching those pressures that I know so well from the inside crush what school is for my kids into a narrow little sliver of the least stimulating and exciting part of what it could be. And I couldn't watch it crush their teachers' wills to focus on all the things that are truly important to me for my kids, stimulating their minds, teaching them empathy and caring for others, helping them to cultivate a love of learning, a love of reading, and a deep desire to understand their world. In the year that followed, I watched as my kid and his peers began to experience the strength of these negative pressures on their experiences of school. We heard about neighbors' kids being asked to do extra tutoring. Parents wondered why. And as many teachers here may guess, it's not because they're not learning and not proficient. It's because they're what we now call cusp students. A cusp student is one who has taken a test and whose scores on that test are just a hair below the next level of proficiency on that test. And these days, it's become normal in schools to figure out who these students are and to give them extra classes or extra tutoring. Never mind that most of the time, these services are actually not good for your kid for all the reasons we've already talked about, and narrowing of what is knowledge, shame about test performance, less time in their day to cultivate a love of learning and thinking, less time to be with their families. So the idea of the cusp student, we've decided that it's okay to put extra resources and effort into some students over others, and also that the types of extra resources we're throwing at them are actually beneficial. They are not. Had we jumped straight into this talking about this idea of a cusp student without first going through 15 to 20 years of excessive focus on standardized tests, I don't think we'd be comfortable saying such things at all. Yet administrators are lauded for their cleverness when they succeed at bringing up scores of students on those cusps without doing anything more for the rest. The excessive amount of testing we're doing in TUSD is inequitable, ineffective, and unfair, and that is why we want to make this year's third quarter benchmark optional for sites and have the people on the ground floor of education, the teachers, help figure out reasonable and useful assessment in our district going forward. Thank you.
Next, we have Jay Harden, followed by Gina Santos.
Hello, my name is Jay Harden. I teach fourth grade at Grijalva Elementary. I'm speaking in support of the campaign to eliminate district-mandated testing and to immediately act to make third quarter district benchmark tests in School City and Benchmark Universe optional this quarter. Teachers need the autonomy to design the instruction that our students need, and district testing gets in the way of that. Standardized testing as a whole is the problem, and we know that TUSD doesn't have control over the state level, but you do have control over district level testing. And as it stands currently, district mandated quarterly benchmarks and weekly formatives serve to extend the reach of state testing and the harmful prescriptive instruction it requires over the entire school year. The justification I've always heard from principals, CSPs, and admin is that quarterly benchmarks prepare students for state testing, and the weekly formatives in turn prepare students for the quarterly benchmarks. We spend so much time preparing them that we're unable to design instruction to help them actually achieve long-term learning. And in my 6 years of teaching testing grades, I see students in my class and across the district continue to score overwhelmingly below proficiency at every testing level, with gaps that have only deepened since the pandemic lockdown. But because we're still locked into this year-round path dictated by district testing, we cannot use our professional judgment to pause, slow down, or deviate from district pacing guides to offer our students the supports they are showing us they need. And what supports do they need? In addition to direct instruction on regular grade level skills and concepts, students need opportunities to practice supporting skills, to fill in gaps from previous grade levels, and have daily experiences in school that are rooted in curiosity and student agency. They need number talks and daily fact fluency practice. They need daily read alouds and opportunities for rich academic discussion about authentic literature. They need grade level instruction built around inquiry and flexibility. Kids need time to explore with manipulatives on a daily basis, time to come to conclusions on their own. For all of our talk in TUSD about UDL and multiple methods of accessing content, multiple methods of demonstrating learning, our curriculum and the district benchmarks that we measure students by expect them to master a concept within a lesson or two and then be ready to move on. And those that don't master it, in my experience, most students are left behind. Teachers know how to provide these opportunities and need the autonomy from district standardized testing to do so. Make this year's third quarter benchmarks optional for sites and allow the people on the ground floor of education, the teachers, help figure out reasonable, effective, and authentic assessment in our district going forward. Thank you.
Next, we have Gina Santos, followed by Natalie Mast.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Trujillo. I'm here to talk about the overtesting in TUSD. My name is Gina Santos. I'm a TUSD parent of 3 children. 2 of them have graduated from TUSD schools and are now attending the University of Arizona. And my youngest is a 5th grader at Warren Elementary. Each of my children have had different, distinct experiences with testing, and these experiences have shaped my perspective on the emphasis we place on standardized testing in TUSD. My oldest son, William, was identified as a cusp kid in middle school. To prepare him for the big test, his PE class was replaced with a computer-based intervention course. He hated it. I vividly remember how his behavior worsened in school after this schedule change. It took years to help him get back on track emotionally and behaviorally, all because of this undue stress caused by this intervention. My daughter Anna had an IEP, and as a parent, I know how IEP students are often treated during testing season. Support and intervention seem to be deprioritized, and their test results are seen as less impactful to the district. This message was clear that her proficiency in reading, writing, and math did not matter as much as other students. While this may have shielded her from some of the pressure, it speaks volumes about the way we see our children on IEPs in the system. And then there's my youngest. He's now in 5th grade. His name is Romario, and he is a strong test taker. He is a highly proficient guy, and he knows this. I know this. His classroom knows this, and he knows when his scores go up and down. But despite his academic success, in our house we say that Romario has chispa. He's quick. He dislikes school, especially around benchmark testing time. Getting my child, que tiene chispa, to school on these days is a battle. He fears getting a bad grade, and he even worries he might not pass into the 6th grade. The constant testing pressure overshadows his achievements and makes learning a source of anxiety rather than joy. As a parent, I struggle with my own reactions to their scores. I'm proud of him, but at the same time, I really know that this is ridiculous. And I know that this realization it's troubling for me because I have come to see how they're perceived, that our students' value is perceived on their capacity to test. Interestingly, my 2 older children, they've never moved beyond minimally proficient in testing in the schools, but they're thriving as university students. I worry about my youngest. He still has many years in TUSD, and I fear I won't be able to change that. I want him to have a love of learning, which I fear that he won't have at this point. Thank you.
Natalie Mass, followed by Maria Caldera.
Good evening. My name is Maria Caldera, and I am a bilingual teacher assistant, as well as a parent of a 11th grade and a 5th grader. I have witnessed that throughout the years, testing has impacted my children's mental health, by causing stress and anxiety every time they must take a test. Whether it's the iReady diagnostic, a benchmark, and both Spanish and English, the ACELA testing, and worse, the standardized tests. When that time comes around, all I hear is, "Mom, I gotta go do testing. I have realized that my children excel on hands-on learning along with creative projects and extracurricular activities, and struggle with the structure of standardized testing, which fails to capture their true potential. Therefore, testing fails to provide an appropriate assessment of my children's talents and intelligence, since testing only places a numerical number on them that suggests only a partially of what they can really do. I highly value the future of my children and their academic journey, and as a parent, I will continue to empower them for more conscious, caring, and a loving society. Let's give them tools that matter rather than test after test. Thank you.
Next, we have Jessica Ramirez Pareja, followed by Paige Anderson.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jessica Ramirez Perea, and I am a first grade dual language teacher. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today about how standardized testing is affecting our young learners. At just 6 and 7 years old, children should be building a love for learning, exploring new ideas, and strengthening foundational skills. Instead, much of our instructional time is consumed by test preparation and assessments that don't truly reflect what our students know. These tests create unnecessary stress for both students and teachers, taking away from hands-on, meaningful learning experiences in the classroom. I've seen my students struggle, not because they aren't capable, but because these tests don't measure their true abilities. Instead of focusing on creativity, problem solving, and critical thinking, they're being taught to perform for a test. At the same time, teachers are pressured to spend more time on test preparation instead of focusing on what truly matters, helping our students grow at their own pace. Too much time is now spent preparing for a computerized test, which takes away from the hands-on, engaging learning experiences that are vital at this stage. This shift in focus limits opportunities for creativity, exploration, and building a genuine love for learning. I urge the district to reconsider the emphasis we place on standardized testing and to explore better ways to assess student learning, methods that provide a more accurate and holistic picture of students' learning. We must prioritize assessments that honor different ways of thinking, learning, and demonstrating knowledge, ensuring that every student has the opportunity to succeed. And this is why we want to make this year's third quarter benchmark optional for sites and have the people on the ground floor for education. The teachers help figure out reasonable and useful assessments in our district going forward. Thank you for your time, attention, and dedication to making decisions that best serve our students and educators. I truly appreciate your consideration of this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. We have Paige Anderson, followed by Ashley Ali Osman.
Good evening, Governing Board members and Dr. Trujillo. My name is Paige Anderson. I'm a speech-language pathologist working in TUSD since 2019. I stand before you tonight to invite and encourage our district leaders to accept the invitation to engage in an open, transparent, and solution-focused dialogue with our Exceptional Education Department's staff members. We respectfully request that Dr. Trujillo, Dr. Salmon, Dr. Hewitt, and CFO Mr. Hernandez attend and actively participate in a public forum. This will provide an opportunity for discussion, clarification, and collaboration regarding recent leadership decisions and the overall direction of the ExEd department. Specifically, we seek to understand the rationale behind eliminating the ExEd assistant director positions and creating an executive director role with the intent to hire a director. These decisions impact the structure and effectiveness of our department, yet communication regarding these changes has lacked transparency. Robust communication is essential to ensure decisions align with our mission and values while upholding our responsibilities to students with disabilities. TUSD's vision is to inspire a diverse community to connect, learn, innovate, and lead for a better world. Our mission commits us to preparing all students to become responsible, ethical, and engaged global citizens through dynamic and inclusive educational experiences. To uphold these principles, we must model collaboration, equity, and open dialogue at all levels. ExEd staff who serve our students directly deserve leadership that supports our work effectively and collaboratively. In our therapy practices as OTs, PTs, and SLPs, my colleagues and I strive to create inclusive and equitable environments for our students, engaging them in self-directed learning by incorporating their goals and visions for their lives into their IEPs and therapy sessions. Similarly, we view this forum as an opportunity to transform our department's dynamic to reflect an environment where all voices matter, fostering meaningful participation in decision-making. As Paulo Freire stated in one of my favorite books, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, liberating education consists in acts of cognition, not transferals of information. In this way, leadership should not be top-down, but a collaborative process where all voices contribute to meaningful solutions. The best outcomes emerge when we shift from unilateral decision-making to mutual respect and engagement. At this forum, we will ask clarifying questions about staffing, financial decisions, and leadership structure. We seek a cultural shift in our department to better serve students, maintain compliance with legal requirements, and retain qualified staff. This is not a request for confrontation, but for collaboration. We look forward to your participation and hope you will embrace this opportunity for meaningful engagement with those who serve our most vulnerable students. Let us work together to ensure leadership decisions reflect the mission, vision, and values of our district. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Ashley Ali Osman, followed by Lillian Fox.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Ashley Ali Osman, and today I'm in attendance with my 5 children, all of whom are enrolled in TUSD schools, ranging from an upcoming kindergartner to a rising 8th grader. I'm here before the board to express my concern with the excessive testing in our district. Testing has become a driving force in our classrooms. It has almost completely eliminated the ability for students to have the time to engage in Socratic circles, extracurricular activities, project-based learning, for students to take ownership of their own learning via individual exploration, and teachers now find themselves having to eliminate what instruction might previously have been deemed beneficial to student success academically for what will help them perform better on district tests. Frequently throughout the year, my children are tested formally on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. I chose to send all of my children to dual language schools because in my household, we value, appreciate, and understand the benefits of being bicultural and bilingual. With that choice comes testing in Spanish, or so you would think. Our kinder program is taught 90% in Spanish, and yet the district mandates testing for our children be in English for doubles. If testing is truly to derive data, we have to ensure the tests we are giving the children are relevant, efficient, and effective. My children have shared that they rarely feel comfortable taking the time they feel is needed to complete tests out of fear they will miss the review for the next test that will be given. The tests are too long. We need shorter tests. A child's attention span is roughly 3 to 5 minutes for each year of their age. That means a fifth grader should be tested no longer than 30 minutes. Knowing this, why would we require children to test for hours, multiple times in a week? A few questions in each standard could easily demonstrate a child's proficiency. Let's return the focus to teaching and away from testing. Make time for meaningful instruction and the proficiency will follow. Ensure tests are designed and assigned with the needs of our students in mind. We must streamline the focus and reduce the length and frequency of assessments to ensure we place learning at the forefront, not as an afterthought. Let's green light changing the way our district tests. And that is why we want to make this year's third quarter benchmark optional for sites and have the people on the ground floor of education, the teachers, help figure out reasonable and useful assessment in our district going forward. Thank you for your time.
Lillian Fox, followed by Victoria Bodani.
Insist on saying the names while people are clapping. Okay, you've got two things here, and I might get through one. The first one is TUSD's unknown, unapproved, conflicting fiscal year 225 budgets. Dr. Trujillo and your CFO got you to approve the budget without ever seeing it, and it was never posted. So in September, I did a freedom request to get it. And I was told they were still working on it. They hadn't finished it, 3 months late. Eventually, they put an 8,000-page budget mess on the website. It has no budgets for the schools. The department budgets have no FTEs. DSEG, M&O, and Title I funds are not identified, making it impossible to tell where they're being spent, and has thousands of pages of unorganized mess. In December, after I did multiple freedom requests to get the missing budget information, they posted another budget book, which was 221 pages, which is pretty close to typical for TUSD's budget books. Now, when you go through them, the numbers are the same. They're two completely different budgets. The small one shows the budget is $69 million less than the 8,000-page one shows. It also, within a budget book, you compare this year's budget to last year's budget on kind of a summary basis. The differences are different. The little one shows the total 224 budget was $67 million more than the 8,000 does. And it even has different numbers for the fiscal year 2025. Now, I attached a little bit of documentation here. This is about the problems with the big one. You don't have a budget. They're so completely different, it's impossible to tell where your money's going. That is the board's job. You're statutorily responsible for overseeing the spending of TUSD's money. There's no way you can tell. It's never been presented to you. Two completely different versions of the budget book are posted. Anyway, and you're also in charge of hiring and firing people. You can't tell how many FTEs are in the budget because the numbers are completely different. Now, this one is about the problems in TUSD schools. I agree completely. Those quarterly tests are a waste of time. And they're not doing any good. They're doing you no good whatsoever for improving your test scores. You are the next to the worst school district in Tucson. You are the next to the worst, biggest school district. Those quarterly tests definitely aren't helping you. Now, okay, you have an incredibly high percentage of kids who are chronically absent. It's almost 34% of your kids are chronically absent. Teachers can't teach kids who aren't in school. That probably goes a long way to explaining why your kids aren't learning. Anyway, data's there.
We have Victoria Bodani, followed by Avalon Darduff Chadwick.
Hi, I'm Victoria Bodani, a CR Social Studies teacher at Pueblo, and I'm reading a letter on behalf of one of my students, Malaya Garcia, who is a senior. Dear TUSD Governing Board, as I write, I would like to speak on my own behalf and on behalf of the countless other students in schools across the state and the nation who feel strongly about the negativity standardized testing brings upon schools. Standardized testing, such as benchmarks, has been held more frequently in my time as a high school student, and I have taken note on how little these tests have proven to benefit students and teachers. Considering that schools as a whole, quote, benefit from the number of students who take the test and how well they perform, they help improve the image and, quote, quality of education the school may provide based on the overall performance the test data recorded. However, trying to make classrooms more uniform based on summaries of students' capabilities to memorize information and how well they can perform under a time limit proves to be non-beneficial. Simply, standardized tests may show themselves to be, quote, equal, but they are nowhere near equitable. From a student's perspective, it does nothing more than waste valuable classroom time and proves little to nothing about others nor my intelligence. I can personally recognize that I tend to be a poor test taker because the sense of pressure of limited time and memorization leaves me to forget everything I know. Yet, on the other hand, I am a strong and diligent student in each of my classes and prove in real time I'm capable of comprehending the different subjects I'm exposed to. No matter how well I might prepare myself for such testing, I've personally never been able to see accurate progress or change in my results because most students, including myself, tend to give up at some point throughout the testing simply because they want to finish as fast as possible, and even when they do try, it seems nearly impossible to perform well for the majority of my peers. These testing methods often misrepresent the majority of students who equally perform better in a non-traditional class setting or in settings that allow them the chance to express themselves creatively and critically, which I believe these tests do not account for. It boxes students into a confined way of reacting, expressing that they are only intelligent and important if they can perform highly on these tests. Better scores creating better students, leaving an unhealthy, obsessive cycle of trying to prove your self-worth for something that will become irrelevant to them and the school within a few years. Students need a chance to strive independently, keeping typical classroom structures, but making room for questions and curiosities to keep them engaged, focused, and determined. These tests serve none of these purposes, thus making students take them further infringe their freedom to think in ways that will help their personal development. On the other side of this situation, we have our educators, the teachers. Although I cannot express their individual opinions from what I can observe, they equally do not care for these standardized tests. And she continues, but there's not enough time. But this is why we want to make this year's third quarter benchmark optional for sites and have the people on the ground floor of education, the teachers, help figure out reasonable and useful assessment in our district going forward. Thank you.
With Avalon Dardoff Chadwick, followed by Carmen Smith Estrada.
Hello, I'm Avalon Bardorf Chadwick, and I go to Davis Bilingual Magnet Elementary School, and I'm in second grade. When I was doing a standardized test, I was so anxious I couldn't sleep for 2 days. I was so worried. My mom and dad tried to calm me down. It was so much work for them. It didn't even work. I love school and I love learning, but instead of doing cool things, I have to practice for standardized tests. And that's why I don't like standardized tests. Thank you.
Carmen Smith Estrada, followed by Finlay Parsons.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Trujillo. My name is Natalie, and I am reading on behalf of Mr. David Said, a fourth grade teacher at Mission View. I am writing to express my deep concerns regarding the increasing emphasis on standardized testing in our public schools. While assessment is a valuable tool for measuring student progress and guiding instruction, the current level of standardized testing is having unintended negative consequences for both students and teachers. Many students experience heightened anxiety and stress due to the overwhelming pressure of these tests. Instead of fostering a love for learning, excessive testing often reduces education to memorization and test-taking strategies, leaving little room for creativity, critical thinking, and deeper engagement with subject matter. This burden is particularly challenging for students who may not perform well under high-stakes conditions, despite their understanding of the material. Furthermore, teachers are increasingly forced to narrow their instruction to teach to the test, limiting opportunities for meaningful learning experiences. Valuable classroom time that could be spent on inquiry-based learning, hands-on activities, and social-emotional development is instead devoted to preparing for standardized assessments. As a result, students miss out on a well-rounded education that nurtures curiosity, problem-solving, and independent thinking. I urge TUSD to reconsider the weight placed on standardized testing in our schools. A more balanced approach, one that includes a variety of assessment methods, such as project-based learning, portfolio assessments, and teacher-led evaluations, would better serve the diverse needs of our students. I appreciate your time and consideration of this critical issue, and this is why we want to make this year's third quarter benchmark optional for sites and have the people on the ground floor of education, the teachers, help figure out responsible and useful assessment in our district going forward. Thank you.
Finlay Parsons, followed by Peter Norquist.
Good evening, members of the governing board. My name is Finlay Parsons. I'm a math teacher at Tucson High School. I'll be reading on behalf of a student at Tucson High School whose name is Ozaya Tona. He's a 10th grader. Hello, my name is Ozaya Tona, and I am a high school student currently enrolled at Tucson High School. I would like to share my experience and thoughts with you on benchmark testing. Throughout my schooling career, benchmarks have always been a part of school, and each time I have taken the benchmarks, I have seen people as well as I have rushed through them and have not taken the testing seriously with the idea of it's not worth a grade, so it's not important, as a constant lingering factor. While I have taken these tests, I have found that oftentimes they do not line up with the things that we are learning in the classroom. Furthermore, oftentimes the testing can take up to multiple hours to complete, which can prohibit the productivity that happens in the classroom and put teachers on an unnecessary time crunch to make up for lost time. As a student, I have never seen the positive effects that have come from this testing, and I do believe that benchmarks should not be a part of schooling anymore. Thank you, Ozaya. And then I would also like to add, on top of that, some thoughts of my own. So I want to put the question to you, why do you think we are doing this here? Why are there so many of us? There's nearly 1,000 people that have signed this petition. Why are we putting so much of our time and energy and life force into this? And it's not because we don't want to be held accountable as educators. It's not because we don't care. In fact, most of the time the teachers that care less love benchmark days more because it's like, oh, it's a day off, right? We're doing this because we care so much about our students' learning that we're willing to put all this time into actually changing the greater system in which the schooling takes place. In fact, at the Math Educator Appreciation Day conference the other day, the 3 teachers that were honored with the Excellence and Resiliency in Math Teaching Award, including the first place teacher in the whole state of Arizona, was Becky Grasek, who's leading this campaign. Who's too humble to mention that. So these are our finest teachers in the district that are leading this campaign. Nearly 1,000 people have signed this petition. I'm going to ask one of my colleagues to come drop the signatures to the clerk now. And I'd just like to also add, I've personally collected nearly 200 signatures and I've had 2 people say no out of all of those. So though nearly 1,000 is not, that's only the people that this reached. Educators, parents, and students are in agreement on this. We have a broken testing system that is detrimental to student learning. I hear some of you are listening. Thank you. If you hear us, show us. Please take the first step in a good faith effort to promote effective and humanizing education in our district. Make quarter 3 benchmarks optional and commit to working with TEA to address this issue. Thank you.
Peter Norquist, followed by Gage Stewart.
Hey, members of the governing board, good evening. My name is Peter Norquist, and tonight I wish to speak to you about item 7.4. It's the artificial intelligence item. And I want to begin by saying that I've taken a look at the information that you provided through board docs, and some of it I do want to praise. I had no idea that there had been an AI task force going in TUSD for the last year. That's interesting. But I've been looking at AI being integrated into school systems in a number of places around the country, and this does a better job than some of them. So a couple of things that I do want to say that I appreciate is that there is a directive to not replace teachers in the classroom, so no human replacement. And then monitoring of AI-generated content. That's something that doesn't always happen even at a place like the University of Arizona. So it's not all bad, but there's a few things that I am concerned about. So broadly speaking, I think that what we're seeing right now, what we started seeing last year and what we're seeing a lot more of this year, is that AI is being deployed a lot faster than it can be understood, much faster than any studies are able to be done to show the effects on numerous different parts of society, psychological, sociological, etc. For anyone who is paying attention to the news right now, you're probably watching a huge amount of rollout at the federal level. There are a lot of people talking about that. I am concerned about it, and this is in line with that trend, so I just want to point that out. And I also want to point out that the people who are really benefiting from this are people in Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley, contrary to popular perception, isn't just a bunch of computer nerds. It's a military contractor nest. And so they are very integrated into the government through public-private partnerships. So I just want to point that out. There have been several emerging studies that show that use of AI can be linked to cognitive stunting in students because it increases dependency on technology and basically dampens the practice of exercising different brain functions. I'm also concerned about the fact that there are backdoor issues in data harvesting. The company itself who's selling you the AI, of course, is never going to tell you that because they want you to buy and use their product. But something that I've been concerned about with previous items, virtual reality labs, medical records, and so on. And so that kind of data harvesting is something I think is a concern. And then finally, I want to say, in line with the discussion about standardized testing, there's this general merger of the machine and human worlds happening, where people are increasingly treated more as commodities than as sovereign beings. This is in line with that. Thanks for your time.
Gage Stewart, and that's the final in person.
I feel like I've been up here a lot. Governing board members, good evening. Dr. Trujillo, good evening to you as well. I'm actually up here to speak on behalf of one of my students. I wasn't going to read, but I received one of their letters on the issue of standardized testing, and I would like to read that for you tonight. Standardized testing only represents what you memorized in your class, not what you personally learned. Students make flashcards to remember what information is on the test. It's basically the banking model of education, which is a term from Paulo Freire, which was referenced by my union sister and comrade Paige Anderson earlier. The teacher gives the students the notes to literally copy down and memorize for the test's sake. Tests have no student engagement. They're mostly made to rank them, learn what placement they are, and to judge them. Students stress so much on these tests. They have a limited time to get ready for them, leading to give up their personal time just so they say that they have done good. A better method would be having projects. Then students would have more time and passion to learn about what they care about, because projects are based on topics that are meaningful to them. Standardized testing should not be required. There should be an option to take them. Some students don't need to take a test to prove that they are learning. It would help students not feel so defeated and down by the way that tests make them feel. I would also like to use the remaining 1 minute and 20 seconds to read my personal statement. We're here tonight, maybe our numbers are thin, but we've had around 50 to 55 people show up tonight to convey this same message. And we're not here to say that we're anti-assessment, full stop. We assess every day in our classrooms. When we show up to work, when we walk around and monitor our classrooms and sustain silent reading through discussions, through small writing samples. We are actually the professionals here, not people that sit in front of spreadsheets and look at testing data that never gets communicated to our staff on the ground. We want to say over our working conditions and our students' learning conditions, we don't think that that's a big ask. We want dignity because this is education, which is a process of humanizing and liberating our community. This isn't a corporate system in which human beings become data points. And so that's why we are saying, please amend agenda item 7.3 and make this year's third quarter benchmarks optional so that sites and the people on the ground have the chance to choose and say what assessment is for their students in their classrooms. Thank you.
Dr. Rabi,
Yes.
we're at the 45-minute mark.
We have two letters to be read. We're at our 45-minute mark. One of them is not related to something on our agenda tonight, and another one is related to on our agenda tonight. What does the board like to do?
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
I'd like to move to extend the call to the audience.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. I almost forgot I was running the meeting for a minute. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries.
All right, first letter to be read is by Sylvia Kempoy. Desegregation 2023-24 yearly report. On January 28, 2025, I notified the board of the short time provided to the public regarding the 2023-24 annual desegregation report. The federal district court stressed that oversight of desegregation efforts and compliance would become the governing board's responsibility with unitary status, while emphasizing the importance of public transparency for community awareness and involvement. TUSD's approach to notifying the public as required about desegregation matters is filled with barriers and does not allow for ease in accessing information, or providing public feedback. TUSD is required to post a report on its website under desegregation and to announce its public hearing. The intact report is 1,467 pages, a narrative report of 159 pages, and 1,308 pages of reference appendices with added indicators to cross-reference documents on the TUSD website. The report, not the appendices, was posted on the district's desegregation public posting page on January 6, with notice of public hearing to be held on January 28, allowing for 16 workdays, 22 days to access and review. To access the appendices, one must leave the public posting section and access the documents through the annual report section. To more easily access the lengthy report and its appendices for its reading, each document must be downloaded and/or printed separately. It takes several hours, a fact not calculated in the time allowed to deal with the annual report in preparation for public comment. The report's numbering of the appendices is inconsistent and out of sequence. Some are either missing or inaccurately numbered. The labeling of appendices is also inconsistent, requiring relabeling for consistency and to avoid confusion. Some charts have numeric data in font size of 6 to 7, making them extraordinarily difficult to read and analyze. Not a single of these organizational problems surfaced by board members during the governing board meeting of January 28, 2025, suggesting either they're dismal or their lack of awareness due to not having read the annual report, which raises concern over the listing of governing board members on the cover page, which indicates that the annual report is the board's accepted work product. The board never voted on the report. The report's content raises several red flags as problematic areas, including the continued overrepresentation of disciplinary actions taken on African American students, high absenteeism rates, and the survey feedback from students, teachers, and parents relative to several student concerns: safety, cleanliness, cultural, racial, disability, harassment, and much more. Such matters are not addressed by describing the corrective action needed with timelines and monitoring. It's time. And the final letter is from Ken Richings, item 7.4. Dear Governing Board, my name is Ken Richings. I am a parent in the TUSD district. My personal money is what funds the school district. All these children are my future as well as yours and your children's. My comment here concerns item 7.4 and the use of artificial intelligence or AI. We're all aware of the existence of AI. Some of us understand more deeply and broadly its potential ramifications. As with anything concerning young children, it's almost always better to proceed cautiously than quickly. I am sure this is your intent. Please keep in mind with anything related to AI or to computer tech in general, what data is being collected or stored or analyzed, what informed consent has been given by the child and parents. What does it even mean to be truly informed? Who has access to such data? How long and whether this data, how long and whither does this data persist? Please keep in mind this is all new territory and that it has ramifications on the rest of the life of each child. Sincerely, Ken Richings. President Ekstrom, that concludes the call to the audience.
Thank you. Would any of my colleagues like to address call to the audience members that have spoken?
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who came to speak at the call to the audience today, especially all the students who shared their personal experiences. I would like to state now that I do support the amendment to make Q3 benchmark testing optional. Thank you. And yeah, you know, we wouldn't be able to do this without all of your advocacy. So thank you for bringing this to our attention and you know, making the move so that we can hopefully approve it tonight. There were so many great things shared at today's CTA. I would like to ask if Dr. Shaw, if you could wait for the applause to end, because I'm having trouble. Like, I have trouble hearing the names, and I have to call people just kind of by their topic, you know what I mean? If you can slightly adjust in the future. Thank you. Let's see. But one person, the speech language pathologist, requested that we organize a forum for the ex-ed department so that staff members can, you know, have a say in how that department is organized and also provide feedback for how we can improve it. So I hope we can do that before the item comes back up to us. And then if we could put on a future agenda the inconsistencies in the budget that was found by Ms. Fox. Ms. Fox, I believe she's the one who found that the 301 monies were being misappropriated, and so boy, do I trust her judgment, and she has a keen eye, so geez, $69 million difference? Yeah, I'd like that on a future agenda. Thank you, Ms. Fox. And then I would like staff to, you know what, let's put that on a future agenda too, about the desegregation yearly report and all of the issues with the appendices that was noted by Ms. Campoy. If we could get staff to provide a reason about why that document was so messy and how people had to travel to another page and download things to get the full report. That doesn't sound like we're, you know, following, I guess, keeping desegregation at the top of our minds. And I guess that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other governing board member? No? Okay, that concludes call to the audience. Next is item 7.2, 2025-26 school year renewal of employee benefits.
I'd like to turn this over to John Fernandez. I want to thank the Employee Benefits Trust Board for their support of this year's employee benefits renewal package for the employees. Mr. Fernandez, do we have any guests from Valley Schools with us this evening?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Madam President and members of the board, thank you for allowing this presentation this evening. As you know, we're partnered with Valley Schools for the next couple of years to help us navigate health insurance for our employees. So I'm joined today from Valley Schools, Mr. Elvis Misera and Sarah from Valley Schools. Both of them came down here for this meeting to answer any questions you might have about our our work with Valley Schools and about the plan here as well. Also joining me is Rosie Ledesma, who is our manager for our benefits office, and she's also joining here in case you have any detailed questions about what we're presenting tonight. Again, about this time every year, we come to the board for approval of the recommended employee benefits plan, as well as funding strategy coming from the Employee Benefits Trust. So the Employee Benefits Trust finalized its recommendation in January, and I'm here to present it to you tonight. So as you know, we are a self-funded a district when it comes to providing benefits, and including our health insurance and pharmacy plans for employees through the Employee Benefits Trust. As you recall, the board approved our work with Valley Schools over the next couple of years to access health insurance due to the expiration of our existing 5-year contract with UMR, but also with the launch of the Health Insurance Task Force, there was a desire by the board not to enter into another long-term agreement for health insurance until we allowed the task force to get to work. So working through Valley Schools, we've been able to put together a plan for the coming year starting July 1st. We will be moving from UMR to United Healthcare. So even though we are changing our third-party administrators, that is, you supported that move to partner with Valley Schools in order to minimize the disruption. Moving from UMR to United Healthcare is really moving to the mother company, of which UMR is a subsidiary. So we won't see any change in provider networks, and that was a big priority for us going forward, to just minimize the disruption to any of our employees regarding their doctors and so forth. So that switch will take place with your approval on July 1st, 2025. As you know, we currently offer 3 medical options, our PPO and our 2 high deductible plans. We'll talk a little bit about that. The overall cost for the renewal in terms of the projections for next year is 3.88%, which is about under half of the national trend, which is at 7%. So that's good news. However, it's still an increase in total cost for the trust. We'll talk a little bit about what's changing in the plan, but mostly most of our offerings are going to be status quo. We'll talk about some of the minor changes. The big discussion tonight that we wanted to make sure we focused on was the transition in health insurance, and then also the funding strategy, which will be towards the front half of this presentation. Like I said, we currently offer 3 plans to our employees: a PPO plan, a high deductible $1,600, and a high deductible $3,200. That's our current offering. Next year, the deductibles for the high deductible plans are going to move up $50. So it'll be HCHP $1,650 and HCHP $3,300, and this is really to stay in line with the requirements of our IRS guidelines with regard to the high deductible, the high deductible plan deductible limits. Our pharmacy plan, we work with CVS for pharmacy. Will be no plan changes and no rate changes. So employees will be familiar with the offerings for next year. This is what we want to draw your attention to, because this is where we talk about the overall costs and how we want to address employer contributions and the employee premiums. So based on the anticipated claims and fixed costs for next year, the projection is that our benefits plan will cost an additional 3.8%, and again, growing less than half of what we're seeing on the national level for similar entities, which is more in the 7 to 8% range. For us, that means that for TUSD as the employer, that's a $1.2 million increase, and for the employee side, which is funded by premiums, that's a $1.1 million increase. We discussed the status of our employee premiums and what we've been able to do over the last couple of years, the board and the trust, to try to offset the premium increase that we've seen over the past couple of years. So as you'll recall, in FY24, we subsidized, the board, meaning the board and the trust, subsidized $370,000 to ensure that employee premiums did not increase. The same took place in FY25 this current year for an additional $731,000 of subsidy. So for the last 2 years, employee premiums have stayed flat. if we were to do that in FY26, that cost for the coming year would be 1.1 million. So in total, if we were to continue employee subsidies, and again, ensuring that employee premiums do not go up, the total cost was $2.2 million. So that was an amount discussed at the trust level, and the Employee Benefits Trust made a motion and approved subsidizing employees for a third straight year, so that premiums stay flat at a total cost of $2.2 million. That $2.2 million will be coming out of the reserve fund, the trust reserve. As you know, there was a 6-month minimum reserve requirement that the trust has to maintain. That's estimated to be around $21 million. At the end of FY25, so when we hit June, the projection is that we will have around $24.3 million in that trust above. That's about $3 million above the minimum requirement, and that amount is going to be earmarked to help subsidize the employees for an additional year. So that really was another decision that the trust made and recommended to the board. So after that slide, well, here's what it looks like on a monthly basis. So you'll see the FY25 to FY26 dollar amounts per month. You'll see that the TUSD share does increase. We're not subsidizing the employer side, but on the employee side, those rates stay flat across the plans and across the categories. Other than that, I'll go quickly through here. We will be seeing a new dental plan. Our employers' dental services pulling out of the market. We're going to replace them with Cigna, which offers nationwide coverage, and you'll see some of the change in rates and in coverage for those who participate in the dental HMO plan. We're working to maintain our Sun Life partnership with regard to life and disability insurance that we offer, so that's currently underway. Jorgensen Brooks, they provide an employer assistance program, so they provide counseling sessions and other supports for our employees. That rate will increase from $1.35 to $1.72 per employee. So that really reflects the fact that they've held steady over the last 5 years, and now we're starting to see some of those the needs to adjust those costs. We will be moving some of our administrative portions to WEX. So Cobra and FSA Dependent Daycare will move to WEX, which is another provider. So you'll see some of that shift. And then I wanted to just say that through our partnership with Valley Schools and United Healthcare, we also are introducing a new wellness program. So WellStyles is the program associated with Valley Schools. So that'll be starting July 1st. So through UMR, we were working with the Wellness Council of Arizona through the UMR contract. That will be winding down, so we'll be working with employees to make sure they get full credit for meeting their incentives, but at the same time, we'll be launching a new wellness program that will begin July 1st. And there'll be other offerings through United Health for discounted gym membership, and for these other benefits, including Hinge Health, which is virtual physical therapy, Parsley Health, which is virtual mental health support, Second MD, which is an opportunity to get a second opinion for those employees who choose to do that, and then identity protection through Allstate. And again, we'll be providing this information to employees as we prepare for open enrollment. Other than that, everything else stays the same in terms of the rates and the providers. And so, and with that, we want to just ask for your consideration and approval. Once you approve the plan, we'll go tie up the details and get ready for open enrollment, which will take place in April. And then again, the plan year starts July 1st. All right, so thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Governing board members?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
Well, not necessarily a question, just saying that I am now the board liaison to EBT, and I had a meeting with Mr. Fernandez. Thank you for your presentation. And I won't speak for Dr. Shaw, who was my predecessor on this, but I note that there's a lot of work that went into it and a lot of thought in making sure that this is affordable. I mean, it as affordable as it can be and where we are in these times, because I mean, you look at the numbers and they're not exactly all that affordable, but that's kind of where we are. So I wanted to say I appreciate the trust work on trying to minimize any sort of cost to the employees.
Hey, thank you. And we do know we're in a holding pattern. I mean, this is something that we've been able to do for employees, and of course, the challenge is how long we can continue to subsidize. So that is on the minds of the trust as well as the task force that is underway. So we launched a task force this year, and we are still. These are made up of representatives of the various bargaining groups. And we've worked through an employee benefits survey, and just to get to this point where we can look at some of the data and try to answer some of the questions that the task force has. It was, we knew that we would pretty much be status quo this year. There wasn't really enough time to redesign the entire plan. But over the next few months, we are going to be looking more closely at the dynamics that underlie the choices that employees make to cover themselves or to add their spouses and dependents. So we saw some of the input from our employees about the choices they have to make due to what they see in the market in terms of what we offer at TUSD versus what a spouse might be offered at another district or another entity. So we want to look more at how those choices are being made and what we can do. And then also, Dr. Shaw's, has been participating and trying to look at alternative models for care that we can explore, once we, as we get further along in our work. So we do plan to come back to the board, hopefully by the end of the school year, to present an update of where things stand, and then of course invite you to join us at our task force meetings.
Yes, Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and thank you for the presentation tonight, Mr. Fernandez, and thank you for coming from Valley Schools to support the work. As the former board liaison to the EBT, it's been great being part of this the last 2 years and seeing the sausage being made and how we're looking at all the different monthly revenues, expenditures, and how we can continue to support our employees and staff by limiting increasing in costs. And over the 5 years that we've been on the board now, this is our fifth year, this is the fifth year that we've had this issue come to us. I'm really proud that we've gone 5 years in a row without any increases to premium costs for our employees. And I think that's a huge win for our employees and our district to make sure that we are valuing the health and wellness of our employees by making sure that insurance, at least for the individual, is affordable. I know we have a lot of work to do. We still have really high costs for families, and if we have spouses or children on insurance, I know a lot of our teachers use Medicaid or use other things for their children, and I'm really excited that we have this healthcare task force that's working with our bargaining units to really look outside the box and find alternatives and that we can use outside this fee-for-service system that we're stuck in medicine. And as a family doc, I'm well aware of the problems that we have in our healthcare infrastructure. So I'm hoping we get some good ideas and some good information. But at least tonight, hopefully this passes our board, which I imagine it will. Just rest assured we're going to keep the premiums to no increases for our staff, TUSD, and our carry forward from our employees' benefits. Premiums in the past will be able to cover the increased costs for now, and I hope we can find some solutions long term. So thank you for all the hard work, and thank you for all of our union members and other employees who have been pushing us on benefits and talking to us about the need affordability, and I'm glad that we are listening and keeping it with no increases for 5 years now in a row.
Thank you. Yes.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And just want to echo what Dr. Shaw said. I appreciate the work of the past and present board liaisons, the task force, and then all the members on the EBT committee for their work on this. You noted that we're $3 million in excess. I hope we can continue this trend and stay in excess so we could continue to subsidize the cost of health insurance. And so, with that, I'll move the item.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Ms. Shaw, a second by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item 8.2, Higher Ground Update, Tucson Unified School District Programming, School Year 2024-2025.
Yes, our team from Higher Ground, they did request that we reschedule.
Okay.
They had a commitment that prevented them from sticking around till after the call to the audience.
Okay, then we will move on with the rest of our agenda. Next is consent agenda, items 5.2 through 5.9.
Madam President?
Yes.
Can I pull item 5.4?
Yes. Do I hear a motion to approve 5.2, 5.3, 5.5,
Ms. Ekstrom, I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Romero.
That's fine. I wanted to see about pulling 5.3 also, please.
Oh, 5.3, okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve 5.2?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Ms. Rose, Natalie Rose, seconded by
Point of order,
myself.
are we only voting on 5.2?
I'm gonna
Okay.
do it one by one. And then, we're doing 5.2 first, yes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, I'm gonna do 5.5 through 5.9. I'll move that.
I'll second.
A motion by myself, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Go ahead, 5.3.
Yes, item 5.3, our intergovernmental agreement with the city of Tucson. I'd like to invite Mr. Bryant Nodine to speak to the specifics of the agreement and to, of course, handle any questions that our board members may have.
All right, this is an agreement for shared use of the schools as public parks. We've done this with 10 elementary schools in the past. We were looking for areas where the city didn't have coverage for playgrounds for younger children. And anything further than a 10-minute walk, we found some school sites that would work to provide those services to the community. And in exchange, the city does some of the maintenance, the inspections, access control, trash pickup, and graffiti removal. For these IGAs, these are middle schools, and this came about because we were looking for shade structures over the courts, and actually we put some of that in the bond. But at the same time, and actually a little bit earlier, the city came to us saying they needed some courts for public use. So together we picked 6 schools that are in different areas of the district for installing shade structures, and we're sharing the cost of those. All of those have been installed, and the city has paid us for those. And that was part of an earlier intergovernmental agreement. This intergovernmental agreement really follows that earlier one for sharing the cost of the shade structures to open those schools up for public use. And those are Gridley, McGee, Vale, Mansfeld, Utterback, and Rose K-8 School. So the term of the agreement's for 20 years with 5-year renewals if we agree on it. Those are joint use areas. It's generally, I mean, we couldn't really restrict it to just the courts, so it does include the grounds of the schools too. Public use of those areas is allowed from sunrise to sunset on weekends, holidays, and during the summer when the school isn't in session. The city is responsible to inspect the areas, to open them up for public use and to close them so that they're secure in the evening. They're also responsible to clean up the trash and remove the graffiti and replace the basketball nets. The agreement provides for early termination if there are problems with the public use. We've had, I don't know if you've heard of it, but we had some problems with some of the public using Blemnon as a dog park, and we ended up agreeing with the city to close that to public use until we could get that straightened out, and we're changing the locks because somebody has a way to get into that school with the locks that are on there now. So we've been working with the city. We meet monthly when we have issues like this to get those cleaned up. And that's where we are on this agreement.
Go ahead, Mr. Romero.
So these 6 structures, they've already been built?
They've been built.
They've been built, okay. So one of the questions was, and you did mention it, Blendman, because I remember visiting over there, and that was a huge issue. So on these other ones, who's in charge, or are we going to have on these signs where this is not a dog park with these little dog droppings when our students come to school on a Monday? These things are in the on the fields and things.
Yeah. It's the city's job to open it up on the weekends and close it at the end of each day and also at the end of the weekend. And at the same time they're closing it, it's their job to inspect it and pick up any problems, clean up.
Okay, trash is including little puppy droppings.
Exactly, and report any damage to us.
Okay, and then one of the other things it talks about what TUSD responsibilities are, turf maintenance, irrigation, weed control, and utilities. So that's on the majority of all of them. I know last meeting we talked about like some of our schools that, well, like Utterback. I know last time I was there, their turf maintenance and facilities was pretty bad shape, and I think the same thing with McGee. So are we then also going to be footing the cost to get our irrigations back up and going in those schools to get the turf up to higher maintenance, or to useful use on those, kind of like the Blendman school playground?
The focus of this one was the courts and getting those shade structures on the courts. Although there is, because we haven't fenced off those courts from the rest of the playground, there would be public access, but the focus really wasn't to create a playground for public access. It's really to create a shade structure over the courts for public use on those courts.
Okay. I was just looking at it. If we did all the turf maintenance, irrigation, weed control, that's a lot of expense to us, where the city of Tucson is just changing out basketball nets. So that's kind of what I was wanting to find out, what our level of turf maintenance is going to be on there. But it sounds like it's the shade structures. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
So let's see. I know the city has obligations for these parks that we share on some of our campuses, but have you noticed that the city is following through with the scope of work, I guess, that is outlined for this IGA?
Yep. With the elementary school IGA, which we've had now for a few years, a number of years, a couple of years, I think, we have been working with the city to get better and better compliance. And I won't say it's moving to strict compliance with the agreement, but it hasn't moved to that, but it's moving in that direction, and they're making arrangements to be able to handle their obligations. In fact, we've talked to the city about this, we'll probably come back to you with a proposal to change the hour, or we'll change the hours because we can do it with the superintendent and the director of parks. Change the hours that the elementary schools will be open, to limit those even further to something like we have for the middle schools. That way the city will be able to better meet their obligations. So it's something that we've been really working to get good compliance there.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, one of these schools had like a break-in and a fire, and like, I just wonder if there's a connection between this IGA and like some of the vandalism that we see at these campuses.
Yeah, these, that's one of the things that we will be doing, is monitoring where we have damage to the schools, because without fencing off the courts, which is something we talked about, we wouldn't be able to control access to just the court. We wouldn't be able to restrict access to just the courts. So our agreement with the city is, if there is damage and there is vandalism, then it really has to be, if it's public use, then it has to be rectified by the city. And if it's during those public use times, we need to work on that. And if we can't, then the options are to look at whether a fence would work, or to terminate the agreement.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying. I do think that it's great that we're working with the city, and these schools definitely activate neighborhoods and provide a place for people to meet and play basketball or what have you. But I just hope that we can get to a point where the city is helping us shoulder the costs of maintaining the grounds and all of that, so that we can have a better outcome overall. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Romero.
One other question. In here, it talks about the sale of the property by the district to a third party. In the event that the site is offered for sale to a third party, the city shall have the right of first offer to purchase the property. Why do we have this language in here, out of curiosity?
They asked for it in there. I don't see it as being an issue because we would, as we do in all of them, look at appraisal and they would make an offer based on the appraised value.
Okay.
But it's just so that they can protect that use if they want to say they wanted to turn the school into a park. I think it's probably not something that would move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you for working out these agreements. I mean, the one I can think of on the east side of Booth Fickett, which is, I think, always kept really well. And hearing my colleagues' comments, I just wanted to comment that I think this is a great partnership between the school district and the city. So thank you for your work. And with that, I would like to move the item.
I'll second. The item's been moved by Ms. Luna Rose, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next is item 5.4, approval to extend the travel date to April 3rd through 8th, 2025 for governing board members and superintendent attending the National School Board Association Conference in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, thanks, everyone. I pulled this item just because I wanted to get some clarification on why the travel dates are extended, and I assume the cost of what was approved is going to increase. So if somebody could give me information as to why the conference ends on the 6th and the travel is being extended to the 8th. I can understand like the 3rd being extended because, you know, you travel and it's like the conference starts pretty much in the early afternoon, I believe. So I could see that, but I'm not sure why like there's such a 2 days extension. Anyone have that information?
Dr. Trujillo?
You know, speaking for myself, I'm not going beyond the original dates, but we did have 2 board members that requested the extension of the dates from the 3rd to the 8th. A lot of that has to do with availability of flights, and I do want to note that there is no additional cost to change the dates, as noted in the BAI language.
Oh. So governing board members who do stay are going to be staying on their own dime?
The extension for the date to the 8th only covers the availability that they'll have with a flight to return to Tucson. That flight is going to be paid for anyway. Whether that flight home was going to be on the 6th or the 7th, the flight was already built into your budget. So all it is just extending the day in which they're going to fly back. As any other employee, once the business of the conference ends, obviously the day-to-day per diems and all of the reimbursable expenditures no longer apply.
Okay, so there's no additional costs. It's just the extension of the travel date, and the board members who are staying extra will be paying for their own hotel rooms and food.
That is correct, but the flight is paid by the district. It's just the flight's always going to be paid by the district. It's just a question of when to come back.
Thank you for clarifying. So with that, I'll move the item.
I'll second.
The item's been moved by Ms. Shaw, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next is item 7.1, review and approval of all budget advisory committee priority area recommendations for implementation in the 2025-26 school year.
Yes, President Ekstrom, board members, I'd like to welcome Stacy Gist. She's currently the Eli president and, of course, is the representative on duty tonight for presenting the Budget Advisory Committee's recommendations to the board for expenditure priorities for the upcoming school year. Mrs. Gist?
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Trujillo, President Ekstrom, Clerk, Dr. Shaw, and governing board members. You just heard my name is Stacy Gist. I am the principal of Valencia, but in this capacity, this year I was the committee chair of the Budget Advisory Committee, which I've served for the past 3 years, and I'm very proud of our work. I'm a hand talker, so I'm just going to point. Okay, so these are our committee members. There's been 7 of us that have met this year, and we have had some representatives that have been continually in our meetings, which is Ricky Hernandez, the CFO, and Natalie Luna Rose, which, thank you for the coordination. We did not plan
It was
that.
totally not planned.
I know, but if you wear Jaguar prints, anybody, you probably will match me, just a heads up.
I left mine at home.
I know, next time. Real quick, here was our tasks and timelines. So we were tasked by the governing board to talk about student fees and schedules. We were talked about the future of summer school, PE and fine arts teaching positions, and school-based administrative positions. Just to give you a heads up, we had 8 different meetings. We met for an hour and a half each time. It was amazing debates. And if you guys would look on your desks, you all should have, or your chairs or board seats, you all should have a little Jaguar figurine. Okay, yes, if you can find your Jaguar figurine. Why you have that, and thank you for some of you for sharing that, is because that truly represents that in the Budget Advisory Committee, you task us with really hard questions in a budget that is getting smaller. And our number one factor that we come together is the children we serve. So those little Jaguar figurines, because I'm a little partial to the JAG community, represents the children we serve, your children, anybody in our community. So when we're discussing our recommendations from the Budget Advisory Committee, please do not think any of them were entered lightly. In a time of fiscal strife, which we are now heading into with a shortfall, it is essential that the number one people we protect are our kids, because it will last a lifetime. So as we are heading into that, and as our total of 8 hours worth of meetings with wonderful people and wonderful presenters, we came up with some recommendations. So the first one is student fee schedules, tax credit, donations, and extracurricular fees. We do understand that, once again, it is a burden for anybody to pay fees. At the same time, the committee recommends the district keep the fee structure as is. Start a promotion of tax credits to educate the community and advertise the use of tax credits and explore other funding methods to supplement programs. Because just as we discussed, even earlier today with healthcare, it is getting harder and harder. And we need to be more creative as we're coming up with solutions. In the Budget Advisory Committee, we advise and we don't have those solutions, but we have amazing people throughout TUSD that can work to create better systems to get the funds into our schools. All right, there we go. Okay, the next one is the future of summer school. Recommendation for the board. The committee recommends, with an understanding that summer school would be ideal for all students, we believe the governing board should prioritize the transitional years of 3rd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, and junior and senior years in high school, while examining creative ways to keep programs as needed. She's getting me. Wrong direction though. Sorry, if I was a clicker, we would be worse, sorry. There you go. All right. Physical education, PE, and fine arts teaching positions. This was a big one because, as you know, we 100% agree we need more teachers and we need teachers in classrooms. At the same time, with our budget constraints, the committee recommends to the governing board that the district maintain the current fine art programming levels, especially because we are a district that builds ourselves off all the fine arts programs that we have. And with regard to PE funding, it should continue to be funded in high schools because it is a graduation requirement. At the K-8 level, the district will work to build community partnerships to alleviate any loss of physical education offerings or programs. And finally, this was the most debated, most heated discussion about this. I want you to take a second because the first line, and look at your Jaguars right now, because this is about school-based administrative positions. The committee recommends prioritizing site budgets and positions that interact directly with students and perform vital operations. We recommended that by creating a comprehensive rubric to review the AP positions at school sites. And our final one was directors to consider a comprehensive review of recurring expenses, software positions, and determine the potential cuts to recommend to the governing board. I know this is hard, and I know nobody likes to talk about finance, but it is imperative that we talk about it and we are proactive. So the one student, the 20 students, every student we serve, and the little Jaguar sitting in front of you, we can keep all the reality of adulthood away from them. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Governing, yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, as board liaison, I appreciated all the work. There was a lot of back and forth and maybe a little bit of teeth gnashing, especially with this last one you just discussed. So I want to just thank Stacy and everybody on the committee for their work and their diligence. We met quite a bit. It was definitely a labor of love, for lack of a better word, since it's Valentine's Week and Love of Reading Week. But I know that these did not come easy. So I really want to just say thank you for your time on doing this, because, there could have been other things you could have been doing, but your commitment and your love for the district is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and again, thank you for your work and everyone on the Budget Advisory Committee. I had the privilege of serving as a board liaison for those first 2 years of this committee, and I learned a lot from those debates and the conversations and the information presented from our admin teams that were supporting this. So I'm really glad we had this committee, and thank you for all this work. I have a couple of specific questions on here. On the student fee schedules, can you talk about so my understanding is that EEF is paying for a lot of the student fees. Did that come up in your conversations? I know my conversation with Don Bell, who's the president of EEF, or the CEO of EEF, I think it was $50,000 or so they spend a year on student fees to help support families that can't afford them.
I do not know the exact amount that they spend, but yes, if students cannot financially afford, principals make sure, EEF, Pasquayaki, there's some additional things that can add to make sure that every kid plays and participates, so that they would not hold a child back for that.
And on summer school, I know this is a study action item, so we might have some action. I'd love to study this a little further on the summer school. And if this is coming back to us, Dr. Tree, have I had more data on how much it's going to cost and all this. I think your recommendation is great on this, limited to the third grade, fifth grade, eighth grade, going into the next year, junior and senior years, to make sure everyone's caught up. And I think having a conversation on what the cost was, what the cost is going to be before we make an approval tonight. But I'd love to see whatever data, if that comes back to us, more data about that, why that decision was made. That's a big change. I think of all these recommendations tonight, that's the only one that actually has a change in what we're doing currently.
Okay, sorry, and then I promise I'll give you your time. I just got a microphone. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, one of the things we also considered with that, and there is something for summer school, schools that do have 21st century programs will continue to have summer school programs at their sites. Oh. So that was something that added to our decision making, in that if you look at third grade, move on when reading, getting ready for middle school, getting ready for high school, and then the December graduations, those were pivotal parts that we wanted to make sure were opportunities for our students. And so by looking at the cost of the summer school and 21st century grant is being picked up by that, by picking those other pivotal years, hopefully we could maximize our money and get more kids that wanted summer school in there, was our thought process for the Budget Advisory Committee.
And when this comes back to us, if this comes back to us, Dr. Trujillo, then I would love to see about 5th to 6th grade versus 6th to 7th grade, especially for our new K-6 school models, where that transition point needs to happen for those kids who are staying in 6th grade in their current elementary school before they go on to a new school for middle school, 7th grade, and whether we need to have an option for them as well.
Ms.
Bring every year. So it's a standalone item. There's a recommendation here. We bring summer school every year. That's slated for a little bit later on in March. We'll make sure that with that presentation, we have all the requested information. I like this recommendation a lot because it frees up a lot more campuses for our operations teams to get in there and do the campus walks and the deep cleaning that they're not able to do. They lose the entire month of June when you have every single school in the district open, or you have a bunch of them open. And that frustrates teachers and staff when they get back and our operations team are still struggling to get HVACs up and running or to do floors. So I think not only is this a cost savings measure, it's also going to be an optimization of the resources that we have.
Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I'm a little disappointed in some of the recommendations. The student fee schedule is something that I really hope that us as a district can champion, because I think it's going to help our enrollment and also it's going to help families. Like, I know we have EEF and they do a lot, but a lot of families simply won't reach out or like even tell their kid, yeah, go ahead and go for that, because maybe they don't want to ask for help. And I know they do run out, and there are others that, we could reach out to, but gosh, I think it would really help. And we used to not do that back in the day, right? Sports used to be free. That's what they told me, at least. So I can't support that recommendation. And then the PE too, and the fine arts teachers. Just maintaining the status quo, I just don't think it's good enough. Like, we need every elementary student to have PE. We need that. And I know it's a graduation requirement for high school, but like it should be like, whether it's a requirement or not, I think we need to prioritize at least the elementary school level PE at all schools. And then some schools have great fine arts programs, some need a little bit of help, some don't have a visual arts teacher, but they have a fabulous music program. So I just feel like we need a balance here, and I would really love it if this could come back and have some data to support why you're recommending these things, because I don't understand why. And we were told, when we talked about the sports limiting the fees, that this would come back with some data to see how we could make it work or not. Yeah. Thank you.
Is it my turn? Wait?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I agree with everything, and that is what we went back and forth with, still understanding about a budget shortfall, and with still understanding, for example, in sports, the amount of kids that we serve and reducing the fees. But if you're requesting more information and that is sent back to the committee, we had very long discussions about all of this with a lot of data behind it in order to make those decisions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would be interested to see some of that data. And I know the libraries isn't on this recommendation. I know it was reviewed previously by the Budget Advisory Committee and it wasn't chosen, but I'd like you guys to review that again and find out how we can make that happen. I believe in the past it came out of our base support, right? It was a $3 per student, and that would fund our libraries. I think that could maybe work. $1 per student goes to the fee schedule or whatever we have to do. I think if we just tweak things a little bit, we can make it work. But thank you for your work on this, and yeah, I look forward to seeing this if it comes back. Thanks.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
So I'm wondering, if you don't mind, Ms. Geist, if Mr. Hernandez is on, if he
He's
can.
somewhere listening.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you are here. Okay. So, Mr. Hernandez, could you speak on some of in terms of like how much it would be for each school to have a PE teacher, and maybe talk a little bit about the fee structure?
Yeah, so with regards to the PE teachers at the elementary schools, we need an additional $5 million to have one PE teacher at every elementary school. As Ms. Shaw already mentioned, high schools essentially already have one because it is a high school graduation requirement, so that it's already part of the funding formula. Middle schools generally tend to incorporate that as well as part of the funding formula as an elective for their students. But it is not a requirement per se in terms of providing us like one specific FTE teacher. There is a PE requirement, obviously, that students have to abide by. But to provide a specific teacher would be an additional $5 million. That is an item that we presented. That is a data point that the Budget Advisory Committee requested. So that probably played into their decision making. With regards to the student fees, so Educational Enrichment Foundation donates about $99,000 to TUSD to provide scholarships to kids participating in our interscholastic programs. Overall, the district collects just under $600,000 for student fees, be it for sports or participating, in orchestra or mariachi. So we, and those fees really go towards essentially offsetting the cost of officiating. AIA provides the amount of money that we're required to pay for the officials and also the number of officials that have to participate in the individual sports. Some of those have increased. We've obviously have more officiating taking place because we've added sports like women's flag football is one, for example. We didn't have an officiating fee for that. Basketball now requires 3 refs versus 2. So, those fees really don't pay for that cost. It's really just to offset it because the expense to pay for those refs is really part of the interscholastic budget that we provide to the interscholastic department, to Mr. House's department. So they receive funding through M&O and through DSEG in order to fund the operations of the department. But as Mrs. Gist also mentioned, when the board has authorized, when they adopt the fee schedules, they've authorized school principals to access tax credit dollars in order to offset the costs of any fees that any student cannot afford. And Mr. Romero's been very good about being very vigilant about those balances, and we want to make sure that we continue to provide that support to our schools to make sure they're accessing those dollars in order to support students to participate in interscholastics through extracurricular tax credit.
Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom. So my recommendation, you're still the board liaison to this committee this year for future years. And I've been part of these discussions. I know how robust the discussions are, but I think the presentation needs to have more information, not just a recommendation, but and not every single, we don't want to rehash your whole discussion, but just some details and the reasoning behind the decisions and the recommendations would be really helpful for us because we're taking all this information and we're the ones making the final decisions on this. And for us to just have a recommendation without all these details and knowledge about what led into it, I think is really difficult for us to enact upon.
Ms. Ekstrom, do you mind? Okay.
I have some questions if you...
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead first.
So the fine arts and teaching positions, we still don't know what schools are missing what and who's doing halftime where. So I would like to see that information come back. I would love to see a PE teacher in elementary, but I do understand the budget constraints. As far as the fee schedule or the fees for participating in athletics and such, do students have to pay for mariachi uniforms, other type of uniforms? No?
Well, I can't speak at all levels, but no, they do not. They pay a fee to participate.
Okay.
A lot of that is fundraised through outside sources that come into the schools. There might be additional fees. I think it was like honor band at the high school, something like that, if they're going to maybe state competitions or some advanced competitions.
Folklorico?
No, to participate, it's just the straight fee that's agreed upon by what we have. Some schools have like those programs, like for example, Valencia has Folklorico that's out of their 21st century, which there is no fee for. So those are the fees that are adopted that we have, and then schools add to that by working on ways to purchase the outfits or fundraising, and so do high schools through their booster programs.
But there could still be a fee for those types of things. Or are you saying that no parent is paying for any of that?
There might be some fundraising that would look like a fee of some sort.
Okay.
Depends on how they run it that way.
Yeah, a lot of the fine arts programs, band uniforms, mariachi trajes, folklorico trajes are also, they're on a refresh cycle in the fine arts department. Interscholastics also gets a refresh for helmets and uniforms for basketball and for football in particular. I know they do track and field, but there may be individual activities where there may be a specific fee in order to purchase a shirt or a jersey of some sort. But generally, these major programs, they're on a refresh cycle in fine arts and interscholastics.
Because I'm just wondering if we're not doing a good enough job advertising, if you financially cannot participate, that shouldn't stop your student from, participating in sports or extracurricular activities. So maybe that's something that we could also look at promoting, and that could help enrollment as well. Go ahead, Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. So seeing that this was a study action item, maybe we come back with this. Dr. Trujillo?
Yeah, I think what you need first is a budget presentation about fiscal year 26 projections. That way there's the backdrop for what you can see as feasible. Then what Dr. Shaw said, for each expenditure recommendation, we should look at total cost and potential alternative funding sources outside of M&O. The deficit that you'll be carrying next year, well documented. We're going through carry forward funds. Next year will be the last year that we have carry forward funds to be able to cover your existing expenditures. So you have to be very, very selective about what you accept as a priority. And I think it's hard to do that without the context of the larger budget projection. So I think we do come back, and we have Ricky just kind of give a general overview of what we're projecting in FY26. And then from there, go into these expenditure priorities and cost them out. That way you have a true read of what's feasible.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And if we can, if you can explore maybe having a floating PE teacher. I know for fine arts, we have orchestra teachers who go between 2 to 3 schools, maybe even more. So maybe we can explore that with PE teachers. And then perhaps we can make fees optional for a period of time and see how schools do with that if the enrollment increases or participation in all of these things increases. Because my daughter's in soccer, as you know, and we pay the $30, but then we have to buy the cleats.
It
we have
adds
to
up.
buy shin guards, socks. Oh my God. So upwards of $100+ for participating in this sport. I couldn't imagine if I had more than one child, how much that would be depending on, their interests. So I think we should explore it, and I appreciate you being open to that. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. And you can keep the Jaguar always.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 7.3, approval of memorandum of understanding between Tucson Unified School District and TEA for third quarter iReady diagnostic testing with authorization for the Director of Employee Relations to execute the agreement.
Yeah, President Ekstrom, members of the governing board, I think we heard a lot today. It called to the audience about the overassessment of students. We know that they're preaching to the choir. I don't think any of us here like to be governed by the A through F letter grade system by the State Board of Education that requires our students to take and pass tests. The reality of the situation is parents shop based off of letter grades in a lot of situations. And when you have assessments give you valuable information about proficiency levels that are necessary to adjust instruction, but also to set up school-wide academic interventions. Now, with that being said, I don't hear anybody tonight or heard anybody here tonight saying, get rid of every single assessment. Where I do agree and where I want to signal our good faith is we do need to tone the assessments down. I do think we are in an area where we can afford to tone them down, work with TEA, form a working group, talk about what's absolutely necessary, talk about frequency. I thought some of the speakers had good points about shortening if we are going to do them, maybe just doing 30 minutes, maybe just doing 25 minutes. So I definitely believe in assessment as a whole as a necessity because of the structure that we are required to operate under the A through F letter grade system. And it's not just about proficiency. The majority of the letter grades are determined by growth, the ability to move students across grade levels and proficiency levels in reading and math within the course of a school year. And then there's proficiency. Those are the two main components of the assessment requirements for AASA. So what we've put together here is we put together a memorandum of understanding, which I believe signals our good faith with TEA to take a first visible step in dialing back on assessments so that we can have that larger conversation about an assessment plan going forward. So we have Mr. Byrne, president of TEA, and then we also have Maricela Mesa, our director for employee relations, to talk about this potential MOU.
President Ekstrom, governing board members, thank you for having us here today with that lead-in. I don't have much to set up for all of you other than to discuss this MOU that we're bringing forward. This MOU, it didn't need to be an MOU. It could have just been something that was decided by other individuals, but we wanted to come publicly and bring this forward to show our commitment to continuing conversations on this issue and looking at ways to improve and be better at what we do. What this MOU provides is it's regarding iReady, which is Tucson Unified's K-8 ELA and math intervention programs. And what this would essentially do, well, just to give you a little background, this assessment takes place 3 times a year, one time in September, one time in January, and then the third time end of April, early May. The first 2 have already been completed, but for K2, the iReady assessment would be considered optional by the MBU. And that is the agreement set forth for you today, and we're here available for questions.
Governing board members? Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. This is really exciting. Thank you for putting this together and organizing. So the optional thing, like who decides that? Is that the principal? Is that like all staff at a site? Like what if there's, I guess, discord between like administration wanting to make it mandatory and then the general staff who want to make it or want to eliminate that third quarter testing?
So the option is with the MBU, who would be the teacher.
Each class gets to decide?
So we haven't completely finalized that one portion, but we had talked about as the individual decide. But it might be something where we recommend that teams work together to decide, like a second grade team or a first grade team. But to answer your question, it isn't a principal decision.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ms. Lina Rose.
Thank you. I was wondering if we can hear from Mr. Byrne and what you're hoping with this MOU, MOA, whatever it's called.
To echo the comments of the superintendent and Ms. Mesa in terms of making this a public recognition of the work that rank and file members of TEA have done, and having conversations with staff members and gathering petition signatures towards a different goal I believe you've been made aware of. And this one, as to cement an agreement and the good faith demonstrated on both parties to accept the sort of changing understanding and information in regards to assessments and what they're tied to, what they're not, and trying to find the common ground to move forward in the right direction. And it's encouraging to hear what the superintendent said in terms of establishing a working group. Something that we want is to come to the table to look at those things and sort through and perhaps disentangle tests that are connected to funding and figuring out mechanisms by which, whether that's an individual MBU as this MOA outlines, or it's a site decision, how we can work together, democratically to trust the professionals that are there, and lean on the expertise that resides in other district positions, to get the best assessments, really attuned to where the educator and their students are at.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment. As a high, I'm the only one up here with a high school student, and I was talking to her today, and I said, "How has your time been at TUSD with all the testing?" And she said that it's been a lot. And now that she's a junior and she's getting ready to take the ACT, she's burnt out. Like she's done, And so I would like to, for my colleagues, their kids that are coming up, maybe by the time they get to be juniors and seniors, they're not feeling so toasty, as she called herself today. So I appreciate all that you've done and all the TEA members that came out this evening.
Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and thank you for your work on this agreement. As a parent of two first graders, excited that I might have one last test to do and actually spend some time learning if their teacher decides to opt out of this testing. You mentioned some of the working groups and next steps. Maricela or even Jim, can you talk about some of your ideas for next steps working with curriculum instruction? And this is a very small start. This is a very small thing, and I understand this is kind of just a drop in the bucket in terms of testing. But but moving forward, how are we going to continue working on this to make sure that we right-size the testing in our district so that we have proper assessment without overdoing it for our students and teachers?
Sure thing, Dr. Shaw. So it would be a working group, like a focus group. So curriculum and instruction would engage with teachers, TEA and other teachers. They don't necessarily need to be in TEA. And talk about the issues, the concerns, and then the streamlining of the processes. So when CNI does come forward to the board to talk about the action plan for the year, they will talk about some of the items that were brought up and how they were addressed in what resolutions were made as they come forward with the action plan. So I think it would allow opportunities for individuals in different regions to be heard, different grade levels to be heard. There's a lot of opportunity. It doesn't even have to be one focus group. It could be different groups, but just to get as much feedback as possible, looking at the funding, the grants that we have and what can be streamlined. That will take some time, but I believe with everyone putting their heads together, a resolution coming forward would help alleviate some of these concerns as to the inefficiencies that may or may not exist. So that would be the plan, is to create working for CNI to engage with curriculum and instruction, for those that don't know what I'm saying, curriculum and instruction to engage with working groups, and then when they bring forward the plan for that year, to talk about what was discussed at that time.
Okay. I'll move the item.
I just have a few comments. While this isn't perfect, it's a start, and I appreciate TEA reaching out and having these discussions with me in particular. And I appreciate all of your work to Maricela and Dr. Trujillo. I know this was a fast turnaround, so thank you. I'll second the item. The motion's been made by Dr. Shaw and seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great job.
Next is item 7.4, Governing Board Policy IJND, Artificial Intelligence Use in Education, first reading.
Yes, it looks like Tracy Rowley will be doing the honors here. Our program coordinator, program manager, what's the title these days, Tracy?
Senior Director.
Senior Director for Instructional Technology, Technology as an Instructional Resource. Tracy's been leading a group of educators, TUSD personnel, in what could be the first attempt, or what will be the first attempt, in defining the role of AI in the district's instructional setting. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, thank you very much. Good evening, President Ekstrom, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, Mr. Ross, and all the people watching me in person and online and later on the recording of this meeting. My name is Tracy M. Rowley, and I'm here tonight to speak about artificial intelligence. I know this is uncharted territory, especially for a school district, and I ask everyone to listen to my presentation with an open mind. AI is here. It is not about whether we want it or not. People are using it, and it is not going away. Leading in education has always been about navigating complexities, but this moment is especially pivotal. This is about being proactive, intentional, and taking a thoughtful and systematic approach by providing a policy and guidelines to inform and guide our students, parents, and staff members. My name is Tracy Rowley. I'm the Senior Director of Education Technology and Online Education. I am joined by Robbie Hamadi, sitting back there, Chris Anderson, who is the Senior Manager of Application and Data Services, and Jules O'Haron, the Program Coordinator of Strategic Project Management Office, who also served on as leaders of the task force with me. My agenda is I will be starting with defining what is generative artificial intelligence, talking about the AI task force, the AI guidelines, and finally the policy that we are bringing to you tonight for a first read. When people use the term AI, it seems to me like it is used more and more, and they are really referring to one of these three types. Well, at least right now there's just three types. The first one is reactive AI. It is the most basic type of artificial intelligence. It operates solely on the present moment, reacting to current situations without any memory of the past or understanding of the future. Reactive AI is very useful and designed for specific tasks where speed and consistency are important. Reactive AI doesn't store past experiences or learn from them. It can't generalize its knowledge or understand context or meaning behind the information it processes, and it reacts instantly to the information it receives. It's a foundational step in the development of more complex AI systems. Some examples include devices used to clean a home or a smart speaker. Predictive AI uses data or algorithms with machine learning to forecast future outcomes. Basically, predictive AI gathers tons of data, finds patterns, and makes predictions. We see this form of AI in online streaming and shopping platforms, where the platform will tell us what we might like to listen or to purchase. In an educational setting, it analyzes how students perform when using educational platforms or software to identify patterns in areas where students excel or struggle. This AI can then help create personalized learning experiences, develop early interventions and areas for improvement, which can help improve learning outcomes. But here's the important part, in my opinion. The human element of teaching and learning is still essential. It is a tool, not a replacement for teachers. Predictive AI has been around for years, and it has been and will continue to revolutionize education by making learning more personalized, effective, and equitable. Predictive AI is a key component in many of the AI applications that we use every day. Generative AI exploded into our world in November of 2022 with the introduction of ChatGPT. It is trained using massive amounts of data like images or text, and it learns using the underlying patterns and structures to generate new content that is similar to the data it was trained on. But here's the kicker. This content is unique and original, and some even say human-like. The new content can be creative, artistic, it can generate a wide range of content such as text, and it can learn and adapt from the new data to different styles and preferences. Generative AI exemplifies transformative change. Its potential in K-12 education is enormous. Its success lies in thoughtful implementation. And furthermore, it continues to develop and shape the future of education, technology, and in my opinion, all aspects of our lives. So realizing the need for an intentional plan and the need to be proactive, we were tasked by Blaine Young, TUSD's Chief Operating Officer, to develop an AI task force in fall of 2023. Chris Anderson, Jules O'Haron, and I started the groundwork and put out the call around the district for people interested in putting in the hard work to ultimately develop AI guidelines and a policy. People from just about every part of the district, 5 of whom are also TUSD parents, along with a community member who's here with me tonight, joined us. We started to meet in May of 2024, consistently on a bi-weekly basis. We split up into 3 subcommittees: students and parents, instructional staff, and I like to call them everyone else. It's lack of a better word. Anyone who works outside the classroom. And here are the people who were part of the committee. Oops, sorry, wrong way. Oop, there we go. Now I'm too fast. There we go. These are the people that are part of the AI task force. They put in a lot of time and effort. They tackled the challenges. Sometimes we had a lot of difficult conversations. And as I move to presenting their hard work, I ask that you honor the work of these people, many of whom are here tonight in person and online. Here's the second slide. So the 3 subcommittees started with creating, editing, and ultimately finalizing AI guidelines, which have been provided to TUSD staff and posted internally for reference. These guidelines were developed based on significant review and leverage of work of other Arizona school districts, the Arizona Department of Education, state universities and colleges, and the International Society for Technology of Education. We were one of the very first school districts in southern Arizona to post AI guidelines. We also joined the Government AI Coalition and the Arizona AI Coalition to learn from other public government entities like cities and states and other Arizona school districts. Using the guidelines, the AI task force then moved on to creating an AI policy that I present tonight for you for a first read. Concurrently, we've been working with communications on an AI public-facing website to educate and inform our parents and constituents, and updating our TUSD digital curriculum to include AI. So currently, AI platforms are not blocked for staff use by our cloud-based web filter system. Any program or platform with AI incorporated into it is blocked for student use. We are developing a process for teachers to request access for AI for students following all of the applicable laws and regulations. Over 1,000 TUSD staff in schools and district departments have been trained about AI from January 2023 to January 2025 by the Education Technology Department. And the C&I department has been training teachers and staff on how to use AI with teacher clarity and writing success criteria, and they've trained over 2,600 people. And we do expect that number to continue to climb. So the AI guidelines provide principles for the use of AI by staff, students, teachers, and other staff. These guidelines are very specific that AI does not and should not replace humans. The guidelines also detail applicable laws and regulations from the state and national governments, and the policy is based on these guidelines. So the proposed AI policy that I have for you tonight outlines acceptable AI use regulations, including educational purpose. AI technologies shall be implemented to support TUSD educational purpose, enhance student learning, improve instructional practices, and streamline district operations. Human oversight. AI should not replace human educators, administrators, or staff. AI must augment human judgment with all decisions involving AI subject to human review. Ethical use. All AI systems must align with the district's value of fairness, equity, and inclusivity. All AI systems must be regularly evaluated for potential biases or discriminatory outcomes. Regulatory compliance. AI use within TUSD must comply with all applicable federal and state regulations, including, here's the alphabet soup, FERPA, COPA, IDEA, SIPA, and Section 504, and any other relevant laws. And finally, data privacy and security. The district shall not use AI systems that compromise personally identifiable information, it's called PII, or other sensitive data, and all AI platforms must undergo a privacy and security assessment before adoption. Of importance, we have included a section regarding academic integrity and acceptable use for students, and have detailed that students must adhere to specific guidelines or instruction provided by their school, school administration, teacher, or teachers regarding the use of AI. Violations of using AI, depending on how it's used, can be addressed in accordance with the Student Code of Conduct. For teachers, the policy details that AI tools may be used to supplement instructional practices, but shall not replace teachers in delivering curriculum or assessing student performance. Teachers are responsible for reviewing all AI-generated content before use in the classroom, and teachers may only use district-approved AI tools with their students. So our next steps, we are going to continue to finalize the AI website to provide information about AI policy for the students, parents, and staff. We will continue to work on updating the digital citizenship curriculum. We also recognize that understanding how AI is now a college and career-ready goal for our students. We will intentionally and strategically finalize the process to unblock teacher-requested AI platforms for use by high school students after critical evaluation of the AI platforms. And finally, high-quality training will continue for teachers, staff, and district-level personnel. Now, before you all ask questions, I'd like to address, I don't have a jaguar, I have an elephant. The elephant in the room. It's a puppet, I won't use it as a puppet, but I'm bringing out my elephant because I think it's important to bring up the elephant in the room. We've all heard concerns from parents and teachers on the subject of AI, and I'm sure you have as well. In fact, I know you have. The top concern is that students are going to cheat. I'd like to point out that there were apprehensions about handheld calculators and the internet when those came out. We believe the Student Code of Conduct and emphasis on academic integrity can be applied towards the use of AI by students. Second, there's a concern that teachers are using AI for lesson planning, and staff are using it as part of their day-to-day job responsibilities. People are already using AI. It is embedded into almost every online tool that we have available. The policy and guidelines emphasize that teachers are responsible for reviewing AI-generated content for classroom use. Third, some are concerned that AI tools and platforms will replace humans. But there are some who fear that it may, and there have been lots of science fiction books and movies where they show robots and computers taking over the world. We must recognize this is uncharted territory. It will be controversial for some, but AI is not going away. And to use the colloquial phrase, the genie is already out of the bottle. However, the policy is clear that AI does not replace human oversight or decision making. In conclusion, and to address these concerns, the policies and guidelines address the importance of using AI responsibly and ethically, understanding the limitations and being aware of the potential for bias and the need to vet AI responses. Districts, and for that matter, public entities and even businesses around the country are all tackling this new AI-infused world. By being proactive, TUSD will be a leader in the state of Arizona. We will be able to provide our students, parents, teachers, staff members, stakeholders, and constituents with a policy that aligns with our values and allows us to shape our future. We will now take your questions.
Governing board members. Yes, Mr. Romero.
So as mentioned earlier, like in the call to the audience and then regarding this topic, concern, and then looking at this cautiously. And I understand we have this in place where human oversight should not replace human educators, administrators, or staff, etc. There was a video from 10 years ago, Humans Need Not Apply. Excuse me. And then there was talking about some of the top 10 professions during that time, transportation being one, retail sales, cashiers, and elementary school teachers was in this also. So with this AI, we have self-driving cars.
Yep.
With retail sales, we have chatbots. Cashiers, we have shelf checkouts and automatic, things that just, when you put it in your cart, they charge you as you go. Where I see this could be a slippery slope is, again, the policy can be changed at any time. We could all prove that this would be fine, but then later on to say, you know what, we have an AI. They're doing this in London, where you actually have the virtual goggles, and it's only AI that's teaching them in the school. So say a student learns better with a black female, and they want to learn with that. Someone learns better with a white male. Those are great things that they can do. But again, this is that slippery slope where can you take it too far in one direction or the other? We have so many refugees that speak lots of different languages. What would be a great idea for these AIs to teach these students in their native languages to help them learn English? What's not saying that we can take this and get the start? For me, it's like we're putting our foot in the front door, we're going to hold it open, let the AI come on in, and if we're not cautious enough and don't have enough safeguards against it, I think we could be doing some negative things for the employees in our schools. I think that's a valid point. If, who's, like I said, we can change this human oversight or future board later on down the line. So that's my cautious part of that one. So I'd be interested to see what the other, replies back from the public on this. But that's just my my initial thoughts.
Hi.
Hi. I don't know if you wanted thoughts on that, but I will just put out there from a policy perspective, we are currently operating in the absence of policy, right? So right now we have no board guidance on if and when AI should be used. We have software where it's available. It's certainly available online, right? That it is out there in the world, and so we're here because we think it's better to operate with policy that reflects the high-level guidance where the board wants us to be. And just in relation to Mr. Romero, what you were saying in terms of the replacement, one of the big pieces of this policy, and it was the subject of conversation, over the whole process, was the language that says AI is not going to replace our teachers, right? That ultimately the people who are responsible in the classroom are human staff, and of course, some time down the road, the board can change policy. That's what the board does, right? That's what your I won't say your main job, but it's a big job, right, of the board, is to set district policy. And so, but that's also why we're here now, is because we want the board to set policy in light of what the current reality is.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom. You mentioned before about the integrity and the cheating piece, and I think the concern comes up with generative AI of people using that to generate their essays or their answers and everything. Can you speak to, because we use, we don't, a lot of times we are looking up information and then we're trying to distill that information and creating our own generation of thoughts and ideas on paper. And if it was too close, I remember from my high school days and college days and writing essays, if it's very close to the original text, that's when you quote it and cite it. But if it's something you're synthesizing together for your own, what kind of training are we doing with our students, and what kind of policies do we have in place right now? I see the regulations for student use, restricted AI access, open generative AI platforms are prohibited for student use on district devices, but of course they have their own devices that they can use as well. So what guidelines are we doing? What policies do we have in place so students have clear definitions on what is original for them, what is plagiarism, what is something they have to quote and cite, and I don't even know how to cite AI. I didn't do APA. I don't know if APA is updated to include that, but
There's even an AI site where you can have it make it it'll do it for you.
Of course there is. So my question is, what,
So here's the
even if we
issue.
pass this today, they use their own devices, or your kids are using their own things. So what guidelines do we have? Like, is this strong enough of a policy that we need to, or do we have other policies that are supplementing this that's going to have all that in place so we can guide students so there aren't mistakes made and accusations of plagiarism, and it's clear?
Right. So here's the issue. It's an equity issue. We know that kids are already using it. If they have their own internet at home, if they have their own cell phone, they're going home and they're using AI. We already know that's happening. So that's why it's an issue of equity. Now, of course, I'm talking high school students because with COPA guidelines, there's an under 13, over 13. We're looking at over 13 for that. But yes, what we believe that we will be updating the digital citizenship curriculum. And part of that, and we've been training teachers of how do you, telling kids, your students, on this assignment, you can use AI for this part. Or on this assignment, there's no AI involved. This says, say, there's no AI. And so teachers can define how they want to use it, or if they even want to use it. But the bottom line is, what we say is if the teacher has not provided any guidance or is not said, it's zero use. That's the default right there. So and we have determined, and talking with Ms. Schwartz-Warmbam, plagiarism is plagiarism. If they're going to use AI or they're going to go copy out of a textbook, it's still plagiarism, and it's still covered under the code of conduct, no matter how they use it.
And in terms of equity, you mentioned that, and some students have access to internet at home. Some students may not have the same kind of level of access. We restricted our devices. Doesn't that address or make it equity worse for those students who don't have access? Like, should we have? So why was a decision made by the committee to restrict it completely from our devices when we know that most students are going to have access to it and some won't? So can you talk about the equity piece and why that decision was made from the committee?
Absolutely. So OpenAI, we will not unblock in this district because the data privacy and concerns, it's open to the world with open systems. We are only going to be looking at closed systems because that is kept inside of our little bubble, inside of our TUSD bubble. We are blocking AI for student use because we didn't have a policy or guidelines for people. And so we felt it was best to block it on our TUSD devices in the absence of any policies or guidelines for people, because we had nothing for people. Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Luna Rose, and
Thank
then
you.
Ms. Shaw.
I think I'm actually be asking Mr. Aronoff. So is this a first read, so this is 45 days?
30 days, but
30
yes,
days.
This is a first read. It would
Okay.
be posted for public comment for at least 30 days.
Okay.
If the board wanted to post it longer, certainly you could, but we think usually 30 days is
sufficient.
plenty. So it would be posted and then we'd bring it back for a second read.
Okay, and my second question for you, don't go away. So the regulatory compliance, how are we making sure, I mean, I can read this, but how are we making sure that any AI use is going to, not compromise, 504 or anything that's, IDEA or any of those regulatory laws that the district operates under?
I mean, so I guess let me say it this way. The policy sets the sort of high level guidance. One of the things in the policy is giving the superintendent authority to create regulations that'll allow us to go into some more detail and also allow us to be more mobile as these technologies change. But big things we're concerned about are privacy. And so certainly when we're looking at technology that we're going to approve for use with students, we're looking at what's their data use, what are the privacy protections that are in place. If we're entering into agreements, we're looking at all of those things to make sure that they're properly protecting that information. And if they're not, then we wouldn't be using it. And there are, because of the world we live in and the laws that exist, the big players in this world have a lot of safeguards in place, and the companies that work and the software companies that work with schools understand these restrictions that are in place. And so my experience when I've worked with companies that provide software services that deal with student data is they already have pretty robust systems because they already understand how the data has to be handled.
Thank you.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. Gosh, when I opened this agenda item up, I was hoping that it would be like, oh, TUSD is not going to use AI at all, but I know that is nearly impossible these days. And I do see that we need a policy for this, so thank you for your work on that. In regards to the task force, is there any opportunity for community members who may not have known about the AI task force to join and participate?
Absolutely.
How can they do that?
I would, I guess, encourage them to contact me, and we can certainly, because we will have a meeting after today to discuss what has occurred here, and then when we start seeing public comments, what kind of changes are we looking at making?
Okay, great.
I would like to point out that I think your point about our students are going, the majority of our students are going to be doing careers that we can't even envision right now. We don't even know what their jobs are going to be. But in Forbes, they said, and this was an article they had last month, AI will displace 85 million jobs, but will create 97 million new ones. So it's requiring a workforce, AI is requiring a workforce evolution. So that's why I really believe that to enable our students to be college and career ready, they need to be prepared for this new world, and we should be the ones helping them get there, because I feel like we're doing them a disservice by not giving them the opportunity to learn how to use it ethically and responsibly in their high school classrooms with teachers who want to take this, who are interested in this and bringing this in. But we tell high school teachers in our trainings, if you think that they're not using it, they're using it. So how are we going to, how do we live in this new AI-infused world? Because it's there. I can't even use Google anymore without getting AI, whether I want it or not. I'm sure you've all seen that. Right. Sometimes I'm like, I want to look at the chicken soup recipes. I don't want my AI. I don't want your AI telling me, what's the best, but I don't get that choice. And that's what's happening in our world now. So.
Yeah, well, I think there's a way you can turn that off, but I certainly don't know how to do it. Maybe I should ask AI how to turn off AI.
There you go. There you go.
I do think it is a slippery slope, though. As one of the people at the call to the audience stated, I think it does stunt your growth. Even myself, if I use AI, and sometimes I do, maybe, you start to second guess yourself and your abilities. And I imagine if I was in high school and I had access to AI, ChatGPT on my own device, I would always go to ChatGPT because it's always so sharp, although they always kind of have this weird sentence structure that I think teachers can kind of recognize. But I believe as a district, we did not renew the subscription to turn it in. I'm not sure if that was purchased again, but that's a plagiarism site. And so is there a site where teachers can find if students have used AI to produce an essay?
My understanding, I don't know if ChatGPT has been, I thought it was renewed, but I don't know the answer to that. But what I believe is going to take is teachers being clear in their policies or syllabuses, you can use it or not. But it's just, some people are going to have to look at how they're creating their lesson plans and what they're asking for, and reshaping some of what they're doing to be able to kind of either use AI or thwart AI. So it might take a little bit of a mindset of people to start to change what they're doing and what they're asking students to do. And if I can tell a story, Jules, can I tell your story? Okay. Jules was with Tucson High Color Guard, and they were thinking of themes for the next year's band. for the next show, and they used AI to give some ideas for their show. So then they started the conversation of this is what ChatGPT says, and they're all on their phones, which they do. But so they all used their phone. They were all looking at what their AIs were saying, and then they were all talking about what they all got to come up. So it was a conversation starter, but it wasn't an answer to the question. So I do think that there is, but cell phones are already stunting kids' growth. They're already there. But I think that if they're learning the ethical and responsible use of it, it actually could be a tool. To quote Dr. Trujillo, it's an assistive tool, for students and teachers, not replacement tool. Right. I wrote that down when you said that last month or December, yeah. But yeah.
Right on. You mentioned that there will be monitoring of AI throughout the district, but how can that possibly be done?
Well, currently we are. So anything that has AI built into it, we block with our cloud-based security system. When we started blocking that, correct me, Chris, I think we started with 7 websites that we were blocking. Now we're up over 600 because things keep adding. Things that were okay were not, now they're adding AI to it, so then we're blocking it. But we do have the cloud-based security system to be able to, and we can pick and choose what we want to turn on and what we don't want to turn on. We have that. We can do that.
But with AI and say it's let me see what you said. Some of the different types, say it's a math program and it keeps churning out new problems for a particular student, and for some reason this student keeps getting problems that maybe they already understand, that type of monitoring. How can we test or monitor for biases in these programs in all shape or forms when they interact specifically with students?
Well, part of our guidelines is to commit to auditing and monitoring and evaluating the tools. So we do understand, things are constantly changing. So we are committed to continue. Once we say yes, this is okay, but continuing to monitor that, so that we are committed to doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the auditing wouldn't be done with AI, right?
Well, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
Well, I don't want that, but I just want to make sure AI is not monitoring
itself. Part of what we do is in our trainings is talking about how prompt engineering, it's called. So asking the right question. So that kid that you're describing that's getting the wrong thing, maybe they're not asking the question the right way. If they reframe their question, then they're going to get a different answer. And that's part of our training that we're providing right now for staff, about how to ask the right question, ask the question you really need, and then you're going to get a better answer. So I would put that as training, education.
All right. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think this is a great first draft, and I'm looking forward to a lot of the community input that would go into this over the next 30 days. So if you're listening out there, please let us know your thoughts and how we can make this even stronger if we approve this for a second read in a month. So I'll move the item for first read, excuse me.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Dr. Shaw, second by Ms. Luna Rose. I did have a question.
Okay.
With regards to equity, you said you were turning AI off on all devices, but the closed AI system for students, closed AI system will be available to those students on those devices?
Only after. So we are developing a process to evaluate. We already have a number of teachers who have requested different platforms. So we will be evaluating them using the applicable regulations like COPA and FERPA at their data privacy law, looking at what their data privacy is, and very slowly, intentionally unblocking one at a time. We're not just going to open the gates and open the floodgates and let everything be open. That is not our intention. It's going to be a thoughtful, systematic, intentional of what are we going to start to unblock. Plus, we've got to be training teachers at the same time.
Well, as stated before, sometimes these devices are the only devices that students get. So if we're going to have student A be able to look on their phone, student B should be able to use their school device to have some sort of AI then.
Well, students can look at whatever they want on their phones.
But some students don't have phones. There is an equity issue.
I understand, but if we allowed our students to be able to do everything on their district devices that people can do on their personal phones, that's not.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they'll have the opportunity to have some sort of AI on their TUSD device that is approved by TUSD.
I mean, so I think that that's right. Just from we were talking about sort of data privacy concerns earlier, and from just a legal point of view, we couldn't provide the same access on our devices as we could on someone's phone. So there's always going to be...
Right, and I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm just saying that they're going to have access to AI that is approved by the district.
Correct, following this approval process.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. Because you do realize that there is inequities between students. Some have phones, some do not. Some have Wi-Fi at home and some don't. Absolutely. Great. Yeah. Okay, there's a motion and a go ahead, Ms. Shaw.
Sorry, I just want to point out, like, in the policy general guidelines for AI use number 1, I really think that language, AI technology shall be implemented to support TUSD's educational mission. I would rather that be may be implemented so that it's not perceived as a requirement. Okay. You know what I mean? And you know, we can take care of that when it comes back to us. I just want to point that out to you and the public. And then the next one, human oversight. AI shall not replace human educators, administrators, or staff. I mean, we are using AI, like I saw or I heard in one of our ads using like an AI robot voice. And that might seem small, but you know, there are voice actors around our town who are losing out on work due to like an AI voice. And so with this policy, I love that because perhaps our communications department won't utilize an AI voice next time and hire a voice actor. So I hope that, like, you know, I know this is so student focused, but I hope we implement it district wide so that, you know, curriculum service providers won't be, you know, pushed out 10 years down the line when there's an AI program that can do it quicker. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call, please.
Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Dr. Ravi?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yeah.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is item 8.1, TUSD Water Testing Initiative Update. Dr. Trujillo?
Governing board members, I'd like to welcome our program coordinator for risk management, Nicole Lowry, to the podium. Those of you who have had interactions with Nicole know it's usually there was a bad day somewhere and we're assessing risk and communicating with the trust. But in this way, it's a good way. So late last winter, of course, we had the domestic water line failure at Rincon University High School. We had the discovery of lead in the water. That led to some really extensive work to replace the domestic water line piping system throughout the school, but at substantial disruption. We know that the gyms got closed down. We know that the auditorium was closed down. And we came through that okay. But in order to be more proactive, we now realize that it's necessary to test the water at all TUSD sites and go with a contracted service provider that would be able to do it in a timeline that would equal the sense of urgency that we have with getting the water testing completed. So giving us the details and the timelines is Nicole Lowry.
Good evening,
President Ekstrom, members of the board, Superintendent Trujillo, Council Ross. I am the risk manager for the district, and we will just have a brief update on what we've already done and next steps. So we will talk about the background, baseline testing, ongoing tests, and then time for questions. So the last time, as Dr. Trujillo stated, the last time we tested district-wide water was in 2017, and it is responsible to continue an ongoing testing program. And so we have developed that and have a plan to keep that moving forward in an ongoing basis. So this year, the district is implementing a 5-year rolling plan. So all schools will have a baseline test, and then each year moving forward, we will test 1/5 of the district until we get to the end, and then we will start again. So following the baseline testing, 20% of the schools in 25-26 will be tested. So how did we do this? Sites have been organized by oldest sites to newest sites. So the schools that are over 100 years old have already been tested. And so we are working towards our new schools, McCorkle, Innovation Tech, and our newer properties. Filters, water bottle filling station filters have been changed. Those have been known to skew tests inaccurately. So we're making sure that we've removed that possibility and testing or removing, changing filters so that that is not an issue. TUSD and a vendor schedule a walkthrough of the site. And we are assessing all drinking bottle fillers, drinking fountains that are not filtered, and any water hand washing stations, anything that's usable water, and assessing in every building on every floor so that we have a holistic test at each school so that we can understand what water lines service which buildings, and so that we can make sure we get the entire site in those tests. Results will be shared periodically. As water tests occur, we're doing it in cohorts. So we send a group of tests to the lab, we will get a group of results back, and those will be released as they come to the district. We expect the first one after spring break, and then again towards the end of the school year, and maybe a third if appropriate or needed in the summer. And so after July 1st, we will implement the final 5th as the first stage of the rolling 5-year, so that we're not doing all 120 sites. We're doing less than that final 5th, and in 25-26 we'll do the final 5th, and it'll be a rolling movement going forward. So on average, TUSD will test approximately 20% of all of our district sites that we have on our property schedule. And every site will be tested once every 5 years. And we feel like that's a responsible response to our families. And so monitoring is important, and we have a plan to do that. This budget will be built into the facilities department and utilized in that department moving forward. That's it. Any questions?
Oh, I like this presentation, and it was short. Governing board members, any questions? Yes, Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. So 5 years to test all schools?
So we're going to test 4/5 of our district before June 30th. Okay.
June 30th of this year?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And then the final 5th will act as our first year of our 5-year plan. So all schools will be tested in 2025. And then in 26, we'll test a 5th, the oldest 5th again.
Okay.
And then in 27, the next 5th, and it'll be a rolling 5-year. But by the end of 25, all of our schools will have a baseline test again.
Great. And then will one water source be tested, or all the water sources at that specific site?
So not all water sources at a specific site. It's we have a sample at schools. So smaller schools have 10 samples, larger schools have 20 samples, and it will happen in every building. So we're getting some sample from every single NPR, main building, always in the cafeteria, always in a one water bottle drinking fountain, always in a unfiltered water fountain, because we want to know what water is coming through to our students, and then in a sink or more.
So only one water bottle station per school?
Will be
Or-
tested.
Okay, because what if like that specific station had a plumbing issue and they redid all the pipes, but the one down the, way was not replaced, but we're not testing that one, and that's the one with the lead pipes.
So the water bottle filling stations are all very new. So those we know are lead free, and they are removing anything from the water. So we're more focused on water fountains that don't have a filter, so that we can actually get an accurate reading of all the water that is coming into contact with anybody in our buildings for that reason. But if there's multiple water bottle filling stations, it's really site specific, depending on what fixtures they have, and how many buildings and how big.
Right. Okay, so all the unfiltered water stations are going to be tested.
Not every, because there's just too many, but multiple.
Okay, because I worry because like some schools have like water fountains that are in the fields, you know what I mean? And my
Right.
daughter has one. She said the water tastes really strange. And so like if we're doing this and making sure that, the water's safe, how are we really doing that if not every source of water, well, at least that's drinkable, is being tested? Like, I feel like we should test every water fountain, whether it's filtered or not.
It's pretty expensive to do water testing. So just for this, 4/5 of the district is $120,000 for the 10 samples and 20 samples. So it's very expensive, and it's quite an undertaking. So we're starting with this, and then if we get results from those schools and we have an issue, then we'll go back and look for more. But we're taking it one step at a time.
Right on. Wow. Medical bills are expensive. So is like cognitive problems caused by lead poisoning. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Personally, I would like us to test all of our water fountains. I think that's doing our due diligence, having a good faith effort, and making sure water is clean. We know that some water is compromised in our district. That's why this is coming before us. So, I would personally feel better if we could test every water fountain in our district. I know it's going to increase the cost, but I think it's going to give us peace of mind, and that every parent in the district can, rest assured that, if your kid loses your water bottle, which my daughter has done twice this school year, that if she tries, the water fountain at her school down the hallway, that it's going to be safe to use.
I would like to also offer that we are keeping very clear maps of where we are collecting samples, so that in the next time we test that site, we would choose different fixtures so that we can get a sample of the whole school eventually, and then start again. So I know it's not a direct response to what you're saying, but we're collecting that data so that we can use it moving forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is future meeting dates and agenda items. Dr. Trujillo.
President Extra, members of the governing board. So we're back at it on February 25th. This will be our first two desegregation departments presenting their budgets. And I believe we will also have student relations will be presenting, in addition to their budget, what the Student Behavior Management Committee has decided might be some worthy changes to the Code of Conduct. We'll also be back with the XED item that was shelved this evening for more of a focus on Medicaid as a funding source. So we will be busy on February 25th.
Okay. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.